The Sacramento City Council will please come to order. Would the clerk please call the roll to establish a quorum?
Thank you. Councilmember Warren. Councilmember Harris. Councilmember Hanson. Councilmember Carr. Councilmember Jennings. Councilmember Guerra. Councilmember Chenier. Mayor Steinberg.
Here.
Councilmember Ashby. Thank you.
Pastor Joy Johnson, the president of Area Congregations Together, I wonder if you would do us the honor of not only leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, but maybe starting us off tonight with some prayer. I think we can all use it. Thank you.
I would ask that all of the clergy join me here at the front of the
Please.
dais. Thank you. And let us salute the symbol of our nation, which is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the
United States of America
and
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
I'll say it when it's not.
Pastor, okay. I promise you tonight that everyone is going to get a chance to be heard. Everyone is going to get a chance to speak. But in order to ensure that everyone gets a chance to speak and we can actually listen to each other, I have to request that people not shout out from the audience. The last thing I want to do tonight is ask anybody to leave. But I ask you if you would please consider the other activists, advocates, passionate people who are here tonight so that we have an orderly meeting so that everyone can be heard. Thank you. Pastor Joy.
Thank you. I will be praying in the tradition of my Christian journey. I ask all who have faith in any other tradition to center yourself in that tradition as we make ready for this time together. Creator God, I do thank you and honor you for this moment to stand with brothers and sisters, and I stand with a conviction and a commitment, oh God, that you have designed each one of us in your image, and you have given us and gifted us with gifts, talents, abilities, and skills, and you have brought us to this place on planet Earth to do that which is righteous and that which is just. I pray for the assignment on each life, each being in this room. I pray, God, that we would be those who would honor you, our Creator, in every breath that we take. So give us a mind, oh God, to be concerned with and considerate of one another. Help us, oh God, to press in to that which is really and truly your divine commandment, that we would love our brothers and our sisters as ourselves. We do bless you now, and we pray that we would listen to one another and feel what one another feels, even if it is painful and even if it is difficult, God. Give us a mind to hear what is happening for our brothers and sisters. We ask this in the name of our Christ. Amen and thank you.
Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor Joy, for leading us off tonight. Members, we do have a very short business agenda, and then we are going to get to public comment or comments from members of the City Council. We do begin with a consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor, may I read something into the
Yes,
record
of course.
quickly?
I apologize. Thank you.
There were two agendas posted for tonight, a special meeting agenda and a regular meeting agenda. The special meeting is being canceled, and an item is being added to the agenda pursuant to Government Code Section 54654.2B2 to approve two contracts with Sierra Health. It is being added as item 11, but is deemed part of the consent calendar. This item does require a 2/3 vote of the council. The item is being added to today's agenda because there is a need to take immediate action. One of the contracts partially funds the safe zones that the city intends to provide for community in response to the district attorneys and the attorney general's announcements regarding the Stephon Clark case. And the need to approve this contract came to the attention of the city after the regular meeting agenda was posted.
Move approval.
Moved and seconded.
One speaker.
We do have one speaker on the consent calendar.
I have one speaker on the consent calendar. It's Mac Worthy.
After you read me into two agendas, it was kind of confusing. but I'm going to speak to the matters of the convention center. We use the funds from performing arts to design it, which come to $10 million. Now you want to come up and say, we want to appeal. I don't know what you want to appeal. The convention center never have been in black ink, but you're going to put millions of dollars in a dumb Joe. That's about what that is, a dumb Joe. Only time they made money there is when their nutcracker were here. I had 28 years of maintenance right there at the Lake of California Cities. I saw everything. A lot of the people that were executives, they come by and say, Matt, can my wife use the bathroom here because that's a mess over here? But yet still you want to put this money out when you can put that money into housing. That money could go into housing. But really, you're not short of housing. That was a gimmick. It's when you bought run-down property, when the government left here, you bought that property off the banks. That's what you done. You bought that, the city of Sacramento bought the property. That's when you have all those vacant lots. Because they bought it. Because if the banks had kept it, our property tax wouldn't be belly up, although they used the 11% up front for redevelopers. And came to the black neighborhoods and changed light commercial to residential. Now, isn't that devaluing your property? Think about it. All you got to do is think about it. You don't have to listen to Mike Worthy. Ask Jarvis Gann. They will tell you. Taxpayers Association.
Thank you. Mr. Worthy, the consent calendar has been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? The consent calendar passes. We do have two very brief public hearings, items 9 and items 10. Who's presenting on item 9? I think it's non-controversial.
Mr. Mayor, permission to waive the staff presentation, open, close the public hearing, and approve the item?
Moved and seconded. Is anything you need to add, sir? Okay. If not, is there public testimony on the item? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Oppose, abstain. That matter passes 9-0. We move to item number 10, please.
Mr. Mayor, permission to waive the staff report and approve the item?
Okay.
I have one speaker on this item.
One speaker.
I have one speaker on this item, Mr. McWorthy.
Okay.
The general public, as you come here tonight as a group, these are the things you should be coming to. This is the economics of this city on revenue, how they draw it up. What is wastewater? We are paying wastewater on 2 lots in Texas. Ain't nothing a lot. This is a gimmick. These are the things that you should be going to court and trying to appeal. What are you doing with the money on wastewater money? You're paying that on wastewater money. The bank's turning around and using your money in escrow, making money, and now they're telling you your property is going to be devalued. To understand what I'm saying, go to the bank and ask the bank, will they give you a loan on the equity of your property, and see what they're telling me, come back to me, and I can write down what they're going to tell me. You got to spend part of the equity to bring it up to that qualification. If we put money together, and if it's livable for you to live in, we will give you that money to invest. And you can pay your interest high and write it off on your tax, which will increase your finance ability to purchase and to travel instead of sitting here and hear this garbage week after week and week after week, people. It's sad. Get yourself together, people, because it's coming. And it's going to be sad when it hit here.
Councilman Harris.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to say that these improvements to the combined sewer system and the improvement project are really necessary projects, and this is a good way to move forward. So once again, it's been moved and seconded.
Very good. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstain. That passes on a vote of 9-0. Thank you. All right. Members, we now move to public comment on items not on the agenda, and there are a lot of people signed up to speak tonight. And in some ways, if you will, this could be considered part of the Sierra Health Foundation agenda item that we passed. In that, the clerk referenced the Stefan Clark matter and our response to pop-ups and other investments. And so I think it's all a proper item for conversation tonight, even though we can't take any action. I'd like to begin by asking...
Mayor, I'm sorry. Could I move that item so we could vote on it, please?
It was part of the consent calendar.
I don't think it was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I'm happy to move the item.
It's been moved and seconded, but you have not voted.
Okay. All in favor, then please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Okay. I would like to ask our police chief, Chief Danley Hahn, to please come up and make a few comments. Chief Hahn, thank you.
So good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to give a brief update on the activities last night with the protest in our east part of the city. So I'm not going to give a lot of specifics tonight because, quite frankly, I don't have a lot of specifics. But I want...
Excuse me, there will be order in the chamber so everybody can speak. Wanda? Wanda? Excuse me, Vong, I'm going to, if you shout out one more time per the rules of the chamber, I'm going to ask you calmly to leave. Chief, I'm sorry, please
No problem.
continue.
So last night, we had a demonstration that walked down the street and blocked the street, and I don't know a lot of the specifics yet. We are lucky that we have body cameras and a lot of abilities to get to the facts, and so we are downloading all those body cameras now, getting statements, and getting to the facts. As the capital city of California, we have a lot of protests weekly, if not daily, in a lot of times, and there's no doubt that this protest ended differently than the vast majority of the protests that we have, and differently by the fact that there was numerous people arrested at the end. That is not typical in our city, and so we will definitely be getting to the facts. And what we do know is there's some property damage. There were some reports of flames, but at the end of the day, it is unusual in our city for how that protest ended. And so, like I said a minute ago, we have body cameras and a lot of other means to get to the facts. And so we are examining those as we speak. As you all know, that our body cameras are downloaded minute for minute. So if it's a 3-hour body camera, it takes about 3 hours to download. And then we have to review it. So I'd be happy to come back in a couple weeks and give you the update of the facts that we've revealed, but I'd be a little remiss if I tried to guess at what the facts are right now. Obviously, as you all know, and all of you have brought up, we did have a few media folks arrested in that large group, and that is definitely unusual for our city. And so I would be happy to come back in a couple weeks and give you an update. Thank you.
Okay, are there questions at this point for the chief? Are you going to be here this evening? At least some of it. Okay. Okay. All right, we are going to hear from the public, and then the council members themselves may have some comments. I want to begin. Can I do this? Okay. I'm going to begin with Dr. Flojan Coffer. We do have 45 speakers. The time frame is, I'm going to make a unilateral as well. My colleagues back me. I think tonight I'd be willing to hear people for an extra minute. I would.
I'll make it through all the time.
Excuse me. So we're doing our best to hear the people and do the public's business, but I think that is appropriate tonight. And so please proceed.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Flojan Kofer. I am here as a concerned citizen of Sacramento. I intended to come tonight to talk about a list of demands for how the city should respond to what comes next in the Stephon Clark case. But I'm also here tonight to talk about what happened last night. Because while the chief is not totally sure what happened, I was there and I do know. And what I saw was that his officers showed up and were incredibly aggressive. If anything, last night, the outcome was entirely the responsibility of the Sacramento Police Department and any other law enforcement who were brought to join them. It turned in, they had a gang mentality. They showed up and they operated entirely from their limbic system and not at all from their upper executive function. They were not able to think or make rational decisions. There were times when I was encouraging the crowd to move away from them, and they were aggressively chasing down protesters. They encroached around people and made it so that they had no place to go, no reprieve, and then arrested them for not being able to leave. They were sarcastic. They left people with no option, and that was completely unconscionable. It made no sense for them to behave that way, and quite frankly, the protest would have been entirely peaceful had they decided to just not show up at all. Their mere presence is the reason why 80+ people were arrested last night. The entire thing could have gone off without a hitch. In fact, much to many of our surprise, people in East Sac actually came out and joined the protest. There were only 2 incidents where people got into minor altercations, both of which were started by people who maybe live in East Sac or came to provoke. And they were really minor and were easily ended. The only confrontation we couldn't end was the one with the people whose duty is to protect and serve. They behaved last night in ways that I can only describe as monstrous. I was hit 4 times with a bicycle while standing lawfully on a sidewalk, trying to encourage people to break up what was happening between 2 people in an altercation. And then I was hit with batons multiple times while we were actively fleeing the scene and on the sidewalk because we were told to move from the streets. That should not happen anywhere. I felt like I was in 1960 all over again. So our demands are, I want to make sure we get to that as well. We're pretty simple. We want termination of the officers. We want review and subpoena and disciplinary and recommendation power to the police commission. We want the people who were arrested last night to have all of the charges dropped because that was completely unacceptable. And lastly, we want to implement AB 392 locally, even if it doesn't pass at the state. Thank you.
Next speaker is Reverend Kevin Ross, then Brianna Osborne.
There are some clergy who were with us last night. If it's okay for us to share the time, not share the time, but just give our testimony back to back, if that's okay. Last night, in keeping with an agreement that faith leaders have made with officials in our law enforcement and city leaders, we experienced faith leaders show up to a peaceful demonstration with very passionate, very righteously upset young people with the decision that was made by the district attorney. And we did what we always do. We gave them the space, helped to hold the space for them to be able to demonstrate their First Amendment rights. And we also supported a peaceful, nonviolent protest, as we have chosen to do in the tradition of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in this city. After multiple months of meetings with law enforcement on behalf of clergy in our churches, where we made promises and covenants, and meetings with the mayor's office, after multiple meetings where we made promises and covenants, we were severely failed last night, and last night was the shame of the nation. To experience personally the trauma in the faces of college students standing up for justice. One young lady had a full-blown meltdown, almost screaming for her mother. There was someone else in a wheelchair where officers were advancing on them in full riot gear. And as we were complying with the instruction from officers, from law enforcement officers, we were actually supporting our community with cooperating as we promised that we would. As we promised that we would, we witnessed law enforcement trap us on a bridge as we raised our hands showing that we were in surrender and cooperating. What in the hell was that about last night? Totally unacceptable. Totally wasn't the deal. Totally was not the promise that was made to us. We are willing to exercise the ovarian audacity and the testicular fortitude necessary to make these changes. We're willing to do that, but we're asking you to do the same, to exercise the necessary courage, exercise the courage to make the decisions that will allow the relief, to show that the citizens, that you're hearing us. And those of us who are putting our lives literally on the line and being arrested for a cause bigger than ourselves.
I know, Pastor
We're
Ross.
asking you
Pastor
to do,
Pastor
we're
Ross.
asking,
Shut up and listen.
we're asking you to match our courage.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Pastor. Thank you.
And there you have it. There you have it. No
Speaker
justice,
Brianna
no
Osborne.
peace.
Time to learn to listen.
I'm the Reverend Dr. Mary Westfall, and I was present last night at something that I believe if you had been there, you would have been horrified. Not by the peaceful demonstrators. Yes, they were energetic. Yes, they were full of feeling and emotion and anger and grief and outrage at what has happened in this city and most recently the DA's decision. But they gathered peacefully. I bear witness to that. It was horrifying to see then as the hours passed by and a demonstration that probably would have ended, as was noted earlier, instead we were met at every angle by law enforcement. Every angle. We were told to disperse, and when we as faith leaders began to work with other community leaders and some phenomenal college students and student leaders to move the group down into safe space, as we walked down 51st Street at every intersection where we might have had the capability of moving off into another direction to find our ways back to our cars or home, we were met by police at every intersection where we could not turn. We were literally funneled onto that bridge. I would like to know whose idea that kind of tactical strategy was. It was a recipe not only for disaster, but you all know what the Selma Bridge looked like, and I don't want to compare it. I don't want to compare it in one sense because of the horror that happened there, but last night, brothers and sisters, it just as easily could have happened. Young people, community leaders, people with different abilities and disabilities, clergy, well identified, were crammed up against a phalanx of police on bicycles. jammed against us as we had no place to flee, and on the other side were police on horseback. And then the militarized reality of phalanx after phalanx of law enforcement. Protect and serve. It was horrifying. I know many people in law enforcement. I didn't know anybody last night. I didn't even know what we were seeing except a highly militarized group that were escalating a situation when we...
Please.
And so I do ask you to look into and get deeper answers to how that poor tactical choice was made. I think we need to look at what we are showing up with law enforcement at peaceful demonstrations. And I think, as was mentioned, this is a moment for moral courage. This is a moment for leadership to be leadership. There is a community that wants to live in peace. Can we make it so?
Reverend Dr. Pamela Anderson, Sacramento Presbytery. My brother and my sister said really all the words that we need to say, but Sacramento, we are better than this. We can do better than this. And I know that this is not the narrative that we wanted to have happen for not only our city, but for our nation and for the world to see. There's ways that we need to be able to do this differently, and we ask also for clergy that when we show up to a space, that our police officers know that we are trying to help create space for all people so that we can be there, so that everyone can be safe, and so that we too can be respected in the process, so that when we show up, that we are peacekeepers, that we are bridge builders, that we are there to be able to be there for the people, to keep them safe and to keep them calm, but also to help keep the police officers calm so that they can keep our people safe. There were moments when I too was shoved with a bike, and I let the police officer know that this was not okay and that it hurt. And there was a moment when it created a moment of panic, that it could have gone very bad very quickly. Thank God that did not happen. Let us not have a situation like this where anything like this could ever happen again. We are better than this. We can do better, and we ask for your help in this resolve.
Next speaker is Brianna Osborne, then Dr. Jane Manty, then Sonia Lewis.
Hi, I'm Brianna Osborne. I was one of the young adults that were out there last night with the college students. To be frank, the city failed us last night. Like, the people who are tasked in this community to protect and serve did the exact opposite, and they should, frankly, be classified as terrorists. The way that they terrorized us and placed fear in the hearts of our young people who did nothing but exercise their basic rights was plainly and frankly inappropriate and just disrespectful to us as community leaders and as citizens of this community. I ask and I urge that you all do better for us. We did nothing last night but stand in our basic rights, holding up our hands in peace, and was met with complete terror. The way that I seen your police department act last night was frankly highly inappropriate. To push young folks who had their hands up and were completely being nonviolent down into the bushes, hitting them with batons. I inhaled two young ladies as they were screaming in terror at the people who were tasked to protect them. Screaming in terror at the idea that they would be next. That is frankly inappropriate, and no one should have to live in that fear. And the reality is that we live in that fear every day in our communities, and we should not have to face that. It is your responsibility to listen, not just listen, but to hear our complaints, but also to do something about it. Last night was inappropriate, and we should not have been faced with that. To sit outside for over 3 hours with our hands held behind our back, screaming in agony at the pain of the wrist ties, people asking to use a bathroom and being denied the basic right to go use the facilities. Even when we got back to Cal Expo, they would not let us use the restroom. That's inappropriate. There's no reason why you all, and I can speak to you all plainly, are distinctly laughing in the face of children as they do nothing but exercise that right. That is something that's going to be placed in their memories for the rest of their life. We should not live in fear of the people tasked with protecting us. We shouldn't. It's inappropriate. And I just ask that you all not only hear our complaints, but empathize with us as human beings. Forget about your titles, but remember that we're humans. And if you wouldn't want your children out there being terrorized like that, why should we have to live like that? It's inappropriate, and I ask that you all do something about it. And furthermore, those charges that they said dispersed, I don't have to repeat, but I'm going to repeat it. We were looking for ways to get home. We were assuring that our youth had rides home, and to be completely encircled and cornered and be told that they cannot go home. A police officer frankly lied to a parent who was told that their child could walk up to them to get back to their home, which was on the other side of the police line, and was met with a bike in the face. That's inappropriate. For the fact that this young lady was sitting here having a full-out panic attack and the police did nothing but laugh in their face.
Thank you, Ms. Osborne. Your 3 minutes is complete.
Well, I'm sorry that it's complete, but I hope that you hear my concerns, and I hope that that never has to happen again.
Thank you, Ms. Osborne.
The next speaker is Dr. Jane Manty, then Sonia Lewis, then Richard Wake.
Evening, y'all. Last night, what I saw was deplorable. I saw wrists that were cut up from zip ties or tied too tight, folks hobbling. My brother Ryan here, there you go, come back here, there you go. Arm in a sling, pulled out of a socket. Like, I think folks have characterized what happened last night well. It was terrifying. Folks just wanted to go home, make sure everybody got home safely, did not destroy any property, but were met at every turn, like folks said, by militarized police. It's not just a city, it was the county, state police out there frightening people, trying to entrap them on both sides. Deplorable. One thing that I want to note right now of my time is that I am saddened, disappointed, and embarrassed to see within the press, city officials, our police chief, saying that these officers who shot this young brother dead in his grandmother's backyard, they'd be allowed back on the streets now, that it was fine, that his choice to fire them, to recommend that Manager Chan fire them, be based on past policies, not our new policies. That sounds wild to me. There was a day when the policy was, if you were a runaway slave, to catch you and bring you back to slavery. And I'm sure no one here would go, well, you know, we should not go ahead and try those folks who were slave catchers based on old policies, based on new policies. You know, they're working on the old policies. That's total bull. Total bull. Which y'all know what happened to Stephon Clark was wrong. Morally wrong. Ethically wrong. Inhumane. That was someone's child. He was a human. He was a father. It was wrong. And y'all know that. Each one of y'all know it was wrong. Right. If it was your child, your friend, your people, your kin, that got shot like that in their granny's backyard, the very least you'd want is the folks who did it to only have a badge or a gun to do it again. Howard, I'm Jane. You got the power, man. Do your job. Let them go. They ain't going to jail, and that's fine. I know my time's up soon, so y'all gotta tell me I hear you. Do it. You don't gotta keep them on the force. Hire somebody new. My dream is that, you know, to be honest, that we don't have police, that we don't need police.
Nancy, your 3 minutes is complete.
That we can fund other ways to prevent crime, give folks housing, give them food, give them water, give them work. I know, Mindy, I'm about to go. That one day we don't need police. But right out here, and those two have shown they don't need to be on the force. Let them go. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sonia Lewis, then Richard Wake, then Amar Shagul. Sonia Lewis here? I don't see Sonia. Richard Wake, and then Amar.
Richard's here.
So for those of you in the audience that don't know me, my name is Richard Wake. I'm a former 24-year member of the Sacramento County Democratic Party that served with honor and distinction. You know, I've been involved in local politics for quite a long time, and one of the things that I think not only needs, you know, a few of you did apologize for what happened to Stephon Clark, and, you know, even if we accept those apologies, that's fine, but I think what all of you need to do that endorsed Anne Marie Schubert is apologize to the public for endorsing a horrible district attorney. You know, Council Members Hansen, for those of you that don't know, Council Members Hansen and Arrigara were members of the Democrat. You know, I'm going to make my comments, and if you don't like what I'm saying, that's too bad. Council Members Hansen and Guerra were removed from the Democratic Party Central Committee of Sacramento County for endorsing a Republican over the Democrat Noah Phillips. Most of you probably knew up here that the leadership of the council or the leadership of the Central Committee, Terry Shands and other hardworking activists were looking for a candidate for a long period of time to unseat Anne Marie Schubert because she failed to prosecute the Nazis that stabbed people at the Capitol. You know what? And taking a look at this, there's a long history of this. Many of you endorsed Kevin Johnson over our two-time former Democratic incumbent, Heather Fargo, that served with distinction for 20 years on the City Council. Some of you have endorsed terrible candidates for school board and failed to endorse prominent African-American leaders like Allie Cooper and Tamika Lecluse. Some of you failed to endorse the former chair of the Democratic Central Committee, Anna Molander, for school board over a hand-picked person that was selected by Jay Hansen, who ruined the Sacramento City Unified School District with all of his bad policies, that actually said that Michelle Reed would be a great Secretary of Education for Donald Trump. What type of people are you endorsing for local office? You know, Hansen, you can sit up there and smile and smirk, but one of these days someone's going to wipe that smirk off your damn face.
Hey,
and you know what? I'm going to laugh my ass off when it happens. You know what? You people ought to be embarrassed for the people that you've endorsed for local office. Anne Marie Schubert is a Nazi sympathizer. She's a disgrace to public office. You guys should have backed Noah Phillips for district attorney. She also endorsed the Nazi brown shirt sheriff for re-election to Sacramento County. All of you, except Council Member Warren, that had the common sense to withdraw his endorsement. All of you. My quest for the next election year, I'm going to be talking to all the leaders of the Democratic Central Committee, and I'm going to make it my quest that none of you ever be endorsed by the Democratic Party ever again for the stuff that you did to the leadership of this, to the Sacramento County Democratic Party for what you've done. You're all a disgrace.
The next speaker is Amar Shagul, then Lawrence James, and then Sedella King.
Could you read this next speaker's names, please, again?
Amar Shagul, Lawrence James, and then Sedalia King.
Good evening. My name is Amar Shergill. Before I begin, I'd like to say something from this side of the mic that we need to hear more of from that side of the mic. Black Lives Matter. Before the end of the evening, I'd like to hear you say that from that side of the mic. If you can't say it, you won't live it. Look, Sacramento protests are notoriously peaceful. Last night, we arrested the peacekeepers. And then we told them at the jail that if this happens again, you'll spend time in jail, significant time. That's a chill that destroys our First Amendment freedoms, right? And it not only affects our constitutional freedoms, it's short-sighted. If you arrest the peacekeepers, who comes next? We will find other leaders. We are thankful. You should wake up and text every morning the leaders that we have for keeping the peace, making sure this town is not set on fire. We can find other leaders, but these ones are great. But there's a solution for you, and you all have it tonight. Those citations, they need to be withdrawn. You all know that there was a mistake last night. It's a horrible misstep. We went backwards last night. And I've heard some good statements from y'all, but you need to say it tonight, that was a mistake, and we got to fix our mistakes. And how do you fix the mistakes? You take those citations and you wipe them off the map, so that these people are unafraid the next time. They have lives, they have families that they have to get back to. They shouldn't be afraid that the next time they do this, they'll be spending weeks away from their family. You need to wipe those citations away so that we can keep the leaders that we are so proud of, that keep this city together. And then when you do that, we can get back to the job of saving Black lives. And I want to say one final thing regarding the district attorney's evaluation the other day of the failure to prosecute in the Stephon Clark matter. She said quite clearly that the only thing that mattered in that analysis, the only thing that mattered was the state of mind of the officers, what they knew about the situation that night, and if they believed they were in danger, then they could shoot. Then why was she talking at such length regarding the victim of the shooting? Why was she telling all of the personal details about that poor man who was shot and killed by our law enforcement? Why wasn't she talking about the state of mind of those officers? She said it was the state of mind. Why wasn't she talking about their state of mind instead of that poor man that was killed? You all should beware. When the district attorney starts prosecuting victims, we're all in trouble. Thank you very much.
That's right.
The next speaker is Lawrence James, Sedalia King, and then Adrian Mohammed. Lawrence James.
Excuse me. Please don't chat. I will look into that right now. I'll look into that right now. Okay? I'll look into that right now.
Lawrence James.
Right now.
Is
We'll
Mr.
look into
James
it right
here?
now.
Thank you. Following Mr. James is Sedalia King, and then Adrian Mohammed.
I cannot have people shouting out from the audience. We will look into that right now, okay? Excuse me. Please, go ahead.
Mr. James.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
James.
911 showed up real fast for Stephon Clark. I was hit from behind February 21st at a red light while sitting there for 2 minutes. I immediately dialed 911. The car pulled off. I proceeded to chase that car with 911 on the phone. I told them what the driver's plate was. I told them which blocks we were turning from right to left, from left to right for 4 miles. When he finally pulled over, I rolled my window down and said, "Hey, you hit my car." 911 dispatch was still on the phone. I kept him there for 7 minutes. They heard him saying that he left the scene because he was intoxicated and had an $80,000 job and a wife and 2 kids, and he didn't want to get in trouble because he had a driving job. 911 never showed up. He eventually gave me his license and insurance, and I made him call my cell phone, so I had his cell phone number. The police never showed up. So once I went to the ER, I went to the police station the next day. They said that 911 was called off because he gave me his insurance. But that was 4 miles away from the crime. That was a hit-and-run felony against me, and I feel like my 14th Amendment right has been violated, which is a protection by the law. And so I've continued to go to the police station. The investigator called me. He said that they did see the hit on Del Paso and El Camino. They saw him hit me. No one has ever called me yet. It's March 5th. I went to the DA's office yesterday. They sent me back to the police department. They said, call investigators again. I'm feeling oppressed, and I just need some representation from the police to do their job. They weren't there. Well, let's take it to the next level, because I still have that 911 incident number for you to hear him confessing that he was drinking and he hit me. And I just don't feel like nobody's representing me as a Sacramento African-American man.
What can we do to help you, sir? Specifically,
I
what
need
would you...
somebody to pick up this case and charge this man for felony hit and run.
You need a lawyer? You need a lawyer?
I don't need a lawyer. I need somebody. I need the DA's office to prosecute this guy. I want to press charges because I feel like you guys are not going after it because I'm black and he's white.
So let us get the detail with one of our staff members, and we will follow up with the DA and make that inquiry for you, okay?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't want an inquiry. I want him charged.
I know, but we're not the DA. But what we can do is get the facts as you've laid them out, and we can communicate with the DA and try to help you.
Everything's right there in the police report, and everything is on that 911 call, and everything is on camera with him hitting me.
Okay, thank you. We will. There's Kelly Rivas right there who can. We will communicate with the district attorney's office on your behalf. Okay, thank you.
The next speaker is Sedalia King, then Adrian Mohammed, and then Linda Cantrell. Sedalia.
Sedalia. I see Sedalia.
Adrian.
Okay. Everyone who's, excuse me, 1 second. I'm told that everyone who is waiting who wants to come in is now in. Okay? If that's not true, then we'll go back out and we will. Okay, well, okay, we'll go back out again. It's our intent to make sure that everybody who wants to come in to speak gets the chance to speak. Okay, so we'll try again. Go ahead, Sedalia. Are you okay? Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Sedalia King. I'm here also as a concerned citizen. I participated in the protest last night. I honestly don't know what all I can say about that experience other than I was scared. I was in my city where I was born and raised, where my parents were born and raised, and I was legitimately afraid. And it was an area that I did not grow up in, and I feel like a majority of the folks who were there with me, who were youth, who were clergy, there were reporters, and from me and amongst my peers, we're all young black kids who have the privilege of being educated. So it was just a really weird space to be in, knowing that we're not supposed to be in that neighborhood. But we were determined to make sure that folks knew that your community that's just on the other side of these train tracks exists, and that we have a legitimate fear that needs to be heard across Sacramento. And I know that that night probably doesn't look great for the city, but it's necessary, and it's a necessary conversation that we need to have because the tensions are high and the city is segregated. There's no other way to put it. There's a clear distinction between the haves and have-nots, and some have justice and others do not. And we brought that to that community to make sure that they know on the other side of the train tracks we see the distinction, and we need to make sure that everyone is aware of it and that we are all working towards fixing it. Because if one piece of your community is afraid, then the entire community falters. You cannot allow one group of people to be harmed and allow that to stand. How can you not care about people? I don't understand it. And the fact that we have to go out in the middle of the night and we have to go up against folks who are supposed to protect you, who you are fearful of, in a community that you know that you don't belong in, so you know that you're already in a position of being a victim. It's this constant state of victimhood, and it's not fair, it's not right. And the community showed up and showed out in good spirits with all great intentions. We had no intentions of vandalism, which we were accused of. We had no intentions of causing anyone harm. We came there with a message, and honestly, when it really popped off, it wasn't until we circled back to where we began, signaling that we're almost done. We were basically done, and then things popped off, and it doesn't make any sense. So I would love to hear the explanation as to why folks thought, when they knew that we were finishing our demonstration, they decided to go ahead and push the lever even further, and then now we're here, having this discussion almost a year after this boy has been killed. So clearly, after all these discussions, after all these sit-downs, nothing has really changed. And we just don't understand why. And that's my time.
Adrian Mohammed, Linda Kantaroft, and then Keith Hugantros. Adrian?
Can you guys hear me pretty well? Should I lean closer? Does this work?
Fine, we hear you.
I did not plan to speak tonight, mostly because I know there were a lot of other people who were kind of egregiously harmed last night, and their words I felt are more important than my own. Mayor and Council, I think it goes without saying that though you have tried, you have ultimately abdicated your duty to represent the citizens of Sacramento. Forgive me, honestly, my voice is shaking because last night was fucked up. Last night shouldn't have happened. How the officers treated such well-meaning people and protected people that went there literally to incite fear, anger, and violence. They were protected, but the people that were there keeping peace were injured. We had someone who, it's been said, and I'm not going to tell his story, but his arm was dislocated. We've had women and children literally hit by these cops last night. And one thing that really has had me fucked up all day is the idea that this was caused because of a few possible scrapes on cars. Now, let's not even talk about the amount of money that the city is now going to expend on all of these cases, everything that happened last night. But you're telling me that a couple $1,000s worth of damage, if it actually happened, which I do not for one moment believe it happened, at least not my protesters, not these people. They didn't do that last night. They held it down so well, and each and every one of you should be so proud of your citizens. Because their leadership showed when yours did not, and I mean that for every single one of you, and I genuinely do appreciate what you guys have done. Do not get it twisted, but you have not done enough. Because you have not listened the way that you need to listen to people. You are not looking at the core of the problem, and when I say that, I mean, look at the idea of this special investigation. The very first point was looking into what went into making that call, correct? when you look at what went into making that call, the first thing that really should have been said, or at least publicly displayed, in my opinion, was whether this happened or not. Because in my eyes, what it says is, you have people who were there at the protest saying this never happened. It never happened. But a couple people in law enforcement said it did happen. That makes it feel, on our side, like you would automatically take law enforcement's side before you listen to us. And I understand. That is not where your heart is, but you understand that is how it is now conveyed. When you are not listening, and you have enough time, you have enough connections and the phone numbers of people to reach out and say, hey, what happened?
Thank you,
Is this
Mr.
true?
Mohammed. Your 3 minutes is complete.
One moment, thank you. Guys, don't worry, it's cool. I appreciate it. We just need you to do more, and as the good pastor said, have the same courage as your citizens, because last night they were fucking amazing, and they deserve a round of applause from you all.
The next speaker is Linda Cantoreft, then Keith Hugantaros, and then Wanda. Is Linda here? Linda, Keith, and then Wanda.
Stop interrupting her.
Excuse me. The clerk is doing her job in the right way. Please come on up here. We want to hear you, but we need to hear you from the microphone.
Can I ask
Okay.
that his shooting would not be put under the rug like the shooting of my son? And sure enough, for the record, it didn't take me a year to come to those conclusions. And now, in less than a year, the conclusions are it was his mental health, and also he deserved it. And the cops are not guilty of what they did. Shame. No conscience. There's no conscience. We, the people, did not want to have paid assassins. That's what we have judges and lawyers and politicians for. But it's a trickle effect. We're now seeing it's not just the cops at fault. It's everyone sitting up on that wall. I hope your necks don't break when you fall off of it. And also, last night, I'm a little bit larger than a third or fourth grader. For the last few observations that I've gone on, I've been hit in the boob by the cops with their bike bars, handlebars. I've been blinded by the cops on purpose with their lights on the front. I've also, last night, walking in the middle of the sidewalk, having a cop ride up behind me on his bike, yelling at me, "Get the F off the sidewalk and move." Although, can anyone up here tell me that that was what I was doing was illegal? So then he ended up going on my right side and hitting me with his big-ass body up against my little third grade, fourth grade body. Hello. What is the issue there? And not only that, all these people in this room and every person walking and talking with a brain are not cattle. Last night, I give a lot of thanks to our farmers. They herded all these people like they were cattle onto that bridge, and the only way off for them is overboard. And after they were handcuffed and bleeding, guess what? It was cold. They were held there. Not right. Absolutely not right. When is it going to stop? Everyone up there is to blame. The irony is none of you guys were out there. You're listening to lies. These people are getting on the news and telling lies. Even the media was afraid of what was going on. We need righteous people to be politicians. I pray to God you guys have conscience, because you know what? You better hope you do. Because it's not that much longer. I am closer to being a senior citizen. I feel sorry for all these young people, but I also feel sorry
Your 3 minutes
for
is
all those
complete.
people around.
Thank you, ma'am.
Everyone gets 3 minutes. Thank you, ma'am.
There is
How many
no...
more minutes does her son get?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Next. 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 Next.
Our next speaker is Keith Huganatos, then Wanda.
Good evening, Council. As a person who was in attendance of what took place last night, I can safely say what occurred last night was one of the darkest nights our city has ever had to endure. It started Saturday when the district attorney on live television tried to paint a person that I knew growing up as a drug addict and an abuser. I am not one to paint anybody a certain way, but if I could say something to the district attorney tonight, wherever she is, Ms. Schubert, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. So what was the reaction supposed to be? That we, as people, college students, people that know what it's like to be harmed by police violence, things of that nature, that know how some forms of the Sac Police Department work, we're going to destroy the city that we worked so hard to build. And we go out there last night, and it was the complete opposite. And so there was a narrative that was tried to be created by those people out there. People were beaten, people were harassed, people were abused, and then they were sat down on the sidewalk, zip-tied behind their backs like cattle. That is not how we operate as the city of Sacramento. That is not what we stand for. We went out there last night with the intent to be peaceful, nonviolent, and then they loaded up people such as Dale Kessler of the Sacramento Bee, who does an amazing job, and such as numerous pastors and city leaders like cows in vans. It is shameful. Now, the question is, what do we do going forward? And I feel like we've been asking this question for a year now, since Mr. Clark was shot dead in his grandmother's backyard. There needs to be one word addressed by our leaders, by Chief Hahn, and by his department. Accountability. Where is the accountability from the people that we trust to protect? There is no trust anymore because there is no accountability. I feel sorry for some of the people that live here just like I do, because nationwide and around the world, we are taking it on the chin today. Just like kids, mothers, fathers, city leaders took it on the chin last night. I am not going to tell you how to do your jobs. That is not my job. But I just hope and pray that we all come together as a city and take accountability and do the right thing.
Well, good evening. You guys have done it. You've declared war upon your citizens. Again. If you want a different response from your citizens, you can't send out militarized police. Yes, I agree we need the militarized police, but not for us. For the politicians, maybe. You guys change all this. You have all these cops in here to why? Because we intimidate you? Ha, ha. We don't intimidate you. You guys intimidate every one of us by your actions. You allow the cops to beat us up, and believe you me, I wasn't there last night, but if I was, I would have beat the cop myself. Don't shake your head. Yeah, right now, that's how we feel. This is how we feel. That's why I wasn't there last night. Do you want to get along with your constituents? People that live for you? It's not that way. We don't live for you. You live for us. You guys protect us. There is no protection in this city. As you guys all know, the sheriff ran me over while I was protesting Stephon Clark. Yes, it was me. Do you know what they did to me? Do you know what they did to me? Were you at the hospital? Do you even give a damn one bit? I have problems in my life because I can't stand fucking cops. Shut up. I have a right to speak my truth. Yes. And as far as I'm concerned, each and every one of you are guilty of allowing the cunts to beat us up. Yes, I'm pissed. I'm so pissed. I was up until 1 o'clock this morning seeing your cops beat my friends up, my family up. That I couldn't leave my house because of what I felt. Yes, I have a mental illness. And yes, I'm not on medication right now. So fuck with me.
Yeah! Yeah!
Our next speaker is Robert Copeland, then Kaya Osborne, and then Mac Worthy. Robert Copeland, Kaya Osborne, and then Mac Worthy.
Are you listening? Come on, this is important. It was the protesters keeping the peace. They said, one of the protesters said, comply with the cops last night. This was on Facebook, by the way. And then on the bridge, you know, the overpass, some of the protesters were saying, what do we do? We're trapped. What the heck are you cops doing? What the hell? Where's Chief Hahn? I want him to explain that. I mean, what happened last night was a disgrace by the police department and any other law enforcement. It should not have happened. I want all charges dropped from the 84 people. Are you listening? I want all charges dropped. I don't want to see this again. Are we in a third world country? Or are we in California? I think they act more like a Gestapo. I mean, hitting people with their bicycles. One got hit in the boob. Zip tied for hours. And then Anne-Marie Schubert dragged Stephon Clark's name through the mud Saturday. What, he can't defend himself? Shame on that, Dave Schubert. And you support her? I mean, really? What the heck is that? Mayor Steinberg, I want to ask you a question. Do you find this, what are you going to do to change it? Where's Howard Chan? Walks out? Come on, people. City council can do better, and so can a city manager, and so can our police chief. They failed the public. The public did not fail the city. The police failed the public. Thank you.
Kaya Osborne, and then Mac Worthy.
I want each and every one of you to look into my eyes. Look up from your screens, look up from your notes. I don't care what you're doing. This is important. Not that anybody else here was either, but I'm really not playing with y'all. I am 19 years old. I am the Sacramento Youth Poet Laureate. The second one this city has ever seen. I am one of the youngest poets in this city with the most national recognition in the city, basically, yeah. And do you know what I do with all that? I lift up the people who would be listened to me after me. I elevate the voices that other people don't want to hear. It doesn't matter if you don't want to hear my voice, you're gonna hear it. Can you tell I did theater? When I was 14 years old, I had 2 classes in English, 2 class periods in which we learned about active listening, and I never dropped that skill again. I don't know where y'all lost it, but y'all better find it.
Does that tell you this much? I'm not here to remind you I'm a human being. I'm not here to remind you that my life matters. I'm not here to remind you I'm afraid. You know all that, and without saying so, each and every one of you has already decided how you feel about that. What I am gonna say is it's what? 2019? If you wanna run for anything else in California or in this nation, y'all better fix this shit right now. Because your legacies are going to go one way or another. You're going to clean them up, or you're going to tarnish them more. Are you going to really support black issues, or are you just going to call for community healing when another one of your dogs that you let off their fucking leashes kills us? We all forget that before human beings are anything else, they are animals. And you guys have put us in a cage. Do you know what happens when you put an animal in a cage for too long? It goes crazy, it catches rabies, and it forgets about consequences. You better hope and pray that the black community in Sacramento, Stockton, San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Brooklyn, Baltimore, everywhere, does not forget about consequences.
Our next speaker is Mac Worthy, then Alexander Clark, and then Conrad Crump. Mr. Worthy?
What I see and what I hear. I've been here many times. I've asked people to sit down with me and let's talk. People, this is why I don't demonstrate. That's the reason I left South Carolina, because if you put that dog on me, I'm going to kill everything within the barrel of my shotgun. Because demonstration is not the key component here. Because that's why I don't demonstrate. Because of what went on in the 60 movements. Because I will retaliate. Now, when a police make a mistake, Now, what I'm hearing here tonight, it sends me in a different direction. I thought was going to be on Trayvon Martin, which, what the DA, because I told somebody that woman was dangerous when they voted for her. I couldn't give her my vote. Now, you all done some things you shouldn't have done. Went out there and republished the House. Now, the state had done that investigation. Now, did it on the phone say this boy was beating the windows out of the car with a sail or a stick, a bat, or a gun? Now, we want to see the state of the federal government come up with its handprints on something. We want to see that happen. Now, that was a mistake by the police. Not the police department, the police that was on duty. That's what the mistake was. Anybody, I don't care where you policeman at, shoot a man in the back running from you, you should be fired. No retirement or nothing. Right there. Should go. Now, if people want to sit down with me, we're in a time that we see socialism coming. Socialism is slavery. We could change some things if you follow my direction. The energy that you use in demonstration, I would like to see that energy used in emails to the Department of Justice. Thousands of them. Then I'll show you what I've done here with the voter equalization. Chain of command, emails. See, you got to understand the emails now, but youngsters don't understand the chain of command. When you got a problem here and it's not taking care of, you email up here because this over here going to say, why in the hell hadn't this come to me before now? That's what you do with chain of command. What you're doing now, you're not going to accomplish anything. But more chaos and more chaos and more chaos. Han will be the last person I'll recommend. I recommended him because the NAACP did not talk to him when he went to Roseville. He went to school with my kids. That's why I recommend him. I will never recommend another black city council, chief of police, or mayor, president of the United States. Work with me now, people. I'll sit down with you. and we got to go to the clergy. We never gave clergy consent to represent us. That's where your basic problem. No consent. We would like for all the people that gave the clergy consent, stand up.
Mr. Worthy, your 3 minutes is complete.
But we want to see them stand up. They gave the clergy
Thank you,
consent.
Mr. Worthy.
You cannot make it in this city with church and
Mr.
synagogue
Worthy,
policy.
that's enough. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Alexander Clark, then Conrad Crump, then James Fago Clark. Alexander Clark here. Let's see him. Conrad Crump.
All right.
And following Mr. Crump is James Fago Clark.
Conrad Crump, representing Mr. and Mrs. Harrison Crump, long staples in the community, as well as myself and many of the folks that were there last night. I'm going to be as brief as possible. Thinking about last night made me reflect on the ways in which we are trapped. Just like the brother said, we are trapped on the bridge. We were trapped from the north, we were trapped from the south, and we were trapped from the east and the west because we were on a bridge, much like Selma with Dr. King, with nowhere else to go, looking up to the heavens. And literally being in that situation reminded me of the ways in which we are trapped as Sacramentans, particularly those of us who are black. We're trapped economically, we're trapped politically, we're trapped academically, and we're trapped socially. Economic exploitation, political subjugation, social misrepresentation, and the failure of the entire educational system, which prevents us from gaining opportunities to change our outcomes so that we can gain agency and maybe even have an opportunity to sit where you're sitting today. But none of that has been given to us. None of that has been provided for us. I think this city council, while you're texting Mr. Warren, while you're looking away, I just want to share with you that those of us who represented Sacramento last night did everything right. We did everything right. We played by the rules. We did everything we were supposed to do, and we were still met with violence, militarized violence. When I tell you, the officer said, move a half a step, and I saw officers running towards people to actually assault them physically, it made my heart just feel like, what is this for? What are we doing here? I even told one of the head command officers, I said, it really don't have to be like this, man. It don't. I said, you got all the problems in the city of Sacramento, and you're using all the resources to come down on people right here because of being in an affluent neighborhood. But yet when I call the police from Oak Park, I can't get an officer to show up. When I call the police in Meadowview, the people who are used to seeing riot gear every Tuesday and Thursday, we call it Task Force Tuesdays. We're used to that. But the people in East Sac weren't familiar with that. They've never been exposed to that. So I say all of that to say this. Because I see you, Mindy, you ready to call my time. I'm just letting you know. You got a group of people who is trying to do things right to seek justice. And when you display your callousness and you display your unwillingness to care or unwillingness to show any type of the way in which the culture is feeling, it just gives more and more feeling of like, you know what?
Mr. Crump,
Why
your
are
3
we
minutes
here?
is complete. Thank you.
Look, thank you, and I'll say this and I'll shut up. It's a history, and you guys are going to have to take a long and hard look at the history of systemic oppression from the police. It already has gone down. You know the history of
My next speaker is James Fago Clark.
Conrad, thank you.
My next speaker is James Fago Clark.
Okay, let's go.
I'll wait for business.
Yep.
Please.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you like this, right? Huh? You gonna hear me? I'll make sure you hear me. You just gotta let me, you know what I'm saying, get this out. All right, it may take a little bit over 3 minutes, no door style.
No. Please,
I'm
to
gonna turn
three,
up, bro.
please.
Look, I'm gonna tell you like this, man. Today, right? I woke up. I was feeling joyful. I don't understand why, as an individual, I was feeling joyful. I began smiling. I began finding myself spiritually. You know, ever since I've been here in Sacramento, I feel like not only my back has been against the wall, everybody that's outside this building that's homeless have been nothing but neglected and disrespected by your coward bitch ass. You hear what I'm saying? You's a coward. I sat there and I read Sacramento Bee and you talk about all these millions and millions of fucking dollars, right? That's what you talk about, right? What the fuck have you stood upon, man?
Hey, could you watch your language,
Shut the
please?
fuck up. No. You know what? Shut the fuck up.
Yes, that part.
You know what I'm saying? Let's keep this shit real. I respect this man right here. You know what I'm saying? Some of y'all, I got a different viewpoint about because y'all stand on integrity. But some of y'all stand on bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Y'all stand on upholding oppression. Y'all don't give a fuck about the people outside. Because if y'all really gave a fuck about them people outside, you wouldn't let your motherfucking police officers, these bitch-ass cowards, bulldoze they shit. They don't have nothing. They don't have no fucking place to go. So while you talk about you putting pressure on the people ass and everything else, you know what I'm saying, Steinberg, you're not doing a motherfucking thing but sending your bitch ass. And for your punk ass, sit there and say that he just rolled himself until, you know what I'm saying, be a mayor. It never happened. The people voted your punk ass into mayor. Because you know why? They feel like you was a person at once upon a time. That, you know what I'm saying, they respected. But now they got a different viewpoint about your ass. It's time for you to pack your shit and get the fuck up out of here. It's time for your bitch ass to leave Sacramento. Because my thing is, your own city, your own state is tired of you.
You're never going to get doors.
No, wait a minute. They want to talk about Stephon Clark?
Stephon Clark?
Right? Let me tell you like this. This motherfucker don't give a fuck about Stephon Clark. No. Y'all talk about Stephon T? You know. Wait a minute. You know my motherfucking relative. Stephon T. I love Stephon T. I don't give a fuck with my relative.
Next speaker, please. Next speaker. Next speaker. Call the next speaker.
My next speaker is James Fago Clark.
No, you're not. You're done. You're done. No, you're done. Sit down or you're going to leave. Get out.
Hey, you know, communication
Please.
is key, bro. Communication is key.
Oh. Out.
These motherfuckers right here take advantage of me.
The next speaker, please.
Respect the paid mayor.
Why have nobody? You know how many times I got arrested? How many times I got targeted? You know how many every time they drove past me? And I'm talking about your bitch ass police officer.
Leave him alone. Hold on. No. That's it. That's it.
Don't touch me, dog. Don't touch me, dog.
Okay.
You need to let me do my job. You need to let me do my job. Please stay safe. Don't jump up. You're doing it. Don't try to gas it. Don't do that.
You're going to stand in recess for a few minutes. Hopefully the chambers can calm down. We will stand in recess for a few minutes. We will come back If it calms down, we will come back if it calms down. We are in recess. We are in recess.
Some kind of piece of shit to stand in this library.
And you want me to sit there? You want me to be complacent? You want me to be a good Christian? It's not today. And now look, I am not a good Christian. Martin Luther King was a revolutionary. He got arrested. Why did he run down time? He stands in the face of injustice. Stop that. Quit being complacent. You are not speaking to people when you are telling and quelling the riots. You are quelling the righteous indignation of the people. You are working with the man who let the people out. This is not the church.
This ain't no time for no heroes.
Martin Luther King wouldn't do what you're doing. He'd be right here with me. He was a revolutionary. He just reached down and Jesus took a wolf up. No, they needed it. Tell people to sit there. Tell them to sit there. Ain't no one up there trying to grab that sword. You're telling people what to do, right?
They're not going to put out our behavior. They're just to acknowledge that their actions are. We have hurt no one. You killed more people out. It was just go back to the why are the police escalating? This police city council meeting.
And listen, how many things have you all done that you should be behind bars for, huh? How many women flinch when they hear your name?
Because this shit ain't changing nothing. Being nice and asking ain't changing shit. I'm tired of it.
This doesn't affect you. You are not a nigga. Let the niggas talk. Black people been quiet for so long. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it.
Come back tomorrow.
No, we gonna all go home. We're not gonna come back. So I'm tired of arguing.
Stop listening to them.
They already left.
Hey, Captain, it's a black people right now. You fucking ally. Just back down. Let's let people express their case.
All I'm saying is that we can go outside and talk to each other, or we can go in order at the right. Whatever y'all want to do, we can do that. I know, so let's go outside. Why we ain't everywhere, we're not going to jail. Or we are going to jail. We're always going to jail. Or we're always getting shot. Or always getting beat. Or we're always silent. You know what? If every time I talk, I am in danger of doing the wrong thing, I will never do the right thing again. My whole career is based off of doing the wrong thing. My whole life is based off of doing the wrong thing. You don't know what it's like to talk about silent. You don't. Respect the speaker. Respect the speaker. This is our town hall. Let me be clear. This is our town hall. Everybody has something to say. Open your mouth. You ever had a man who like swing his fucking leg on the light rail without you knowing who it was? Because there's so many goddamn niggas standing up and the goddamn light rail for you to know.
Period.
The elders have been talking for a long time. And check the respectability of politics. Check, you know what? Right now, it's no more talking, it's action. Okay? That's it.
Hey, this is our town hall. Give everybody a chance to speak. If they don't want to hear us, we're going to hear us. This is our town hall.
It's all sit down there. I've been preaching since I was 7 years old. I'm not an elder. I got the same passion from God. We got other community members that we do want to have the opportunity to speak to the injustice of the people.
They're not coming back. They're not coming back. Okay? Well, here's the thing. They're not coming back. Now, we're up a creek without a fucking paddle. So are we taking the streets? Are we going home? Or are we standing here until they move? Those are our three options. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
They are beating on the
Apparently is attacking people outside. There's a bunch of people. Bring them back. Bring them back.
Bring them back.
All these folks.
So they can feel comfortable enough to sit down.
Those are root causes that led to step-on death. It's deeper than step-on. It's bigger than step-on. It's a whole system. It's a whole system that we're going to change. It's a whole system that we're going to
The mayor can come out. He doesn't have anything to worry about. No one else in this crowd is armed but you. Y'all don't care.
Making money off it.
For real. They're all invested.
Yep. Shareholders.
For real.
Shareholders.
Right.
What high school you went to? What high school you go to? What, you niggas mad you were in the police? And I'm from Sacramento. And I see you coming with the folks. And I ain't never been on the we had that conversation all the time. All these folks is watching. But I'm just letting you know. I see you, bro. I see you, bro.
That's got to be a fire code. That's got to be a fire code violation.
You're still on Facebook Live.
Bullshit!
the point. That's the point. Everybody is not going to have last night. I don't want, it doesn't have to be a fair.
Okay, the way I see it, it's like
It doesn't. I'm trying to tell you. It doesn't have to be fair. I think people will come to it. But last night, this is what we saw. And so if there can be a shifting, we can help wield our influence with the people don't sit down.
Give him an ability to make that announcement. Want to call mic check? So this is what I'll do. I'm going to have my officers go on this side. I don't want anybody jumping up on a guy. Right. We're going to be respectful. Once everybody sits down, I'm going to get them out of the table. I'll have to smirk. If they're going to stay like this, we're going to come right back like that. Okay.
Give us a few minutes.
You want me to do a mic check so everybody can hear you? I don't know.
Mic check!
Mic check this side.
Mic check!
916.
I really want to acknowledge what just occurred. What just occurred in this room was you expressed the level of trauma that you've been experiencing. We've expressed the level of trauma that we've been experiencing here by the militarized display from our law enforcement. As a result of that, you gave us an opportunity to talk directly to the law enforcement and pierce some hearts up here. And I asked them on our behalf, would they be willing to stand away with...
Hold on, wait. We got to respect each other.
No problem. No problem. But what we were able to display tonight was a shift in their softening their stance and being willing to drop back so that we can all be heard. Several of us are in this room and several outside of this room still want to make comments on our behalf. And what we just created was a shift, and that's a step. And we did that. And they're willing to do that. And so let's continue to come to the mic and give our comments out like we came here for, okay? It's a start. It's a start. So who is going to speak next? Can we get our council? Can we get our...
I was the one next on the
Can we
list.
get our seats and our council back?
Let's get the council back up.
I know, we'll get you next, I promise you. We want to hear from everybody. We want to hear from every member of the public who came out tonight. We just ask, please, that you try to let everyone speak, and that when you're done, you please either return to your seat or you're welcome to stay and or leave. We can't have what just happened happen again. And otherwise, we're okay. Good, let's go. Okay? Next.
And next speaker
Mr.
is
Clark.
James Fago
Yes,
Clark,
Mr.
and then
Clark.
Larry Bell.
Yes.
So, first thing, if you send your officers out here with batons drawn and everything towards the public for expressing their outrage, you can expect it to get even louder. Every time that they show up in riot gear, it instigates people's outrage and their trauma, and things are going to become more explosive every single time. It's an oppressive move. It does nothing to help. Secondly, I don't even know where to go with the secondly part. For one, Norm Leong was the commanding officer last night for the protest, if I'm not mistaken. So that was his call on those tactics, if I'm not mistaken, also. That caused 84 people to be arrested, one journalist to be detained, multiple faith leaders, legal observers who were there to observe 4 civil rights violations by the police were also arrested in the process. You had people in wheelchairs being arrested. There was a lady whose ankle was sprained by one of the bicycle officers in the process of being arrested. They've already brought up the gentleman's arm. You know, these are all things that happened, not because the public wasn't being peaceful. I was watching those live streams. I was watching, and yeah, there were some tense moments where people were expressing outrage with their language. And, you know, it's hard to hear those radios when you're in the moment, but when you're watching those live feeds, you can hear the police radios. You can hear their chatter at some points. And you know what they're talking about? How to kettle. That's what it's called, kettling the protesters. That's a legal term, by the way. It's highly illegal for police to kettle protesters to make arrests. But that's what they did intentionally last night. When the protesters returned to 51st Street by their cars, getting ready to go home, that's when the police decided to blockade the area where the people were parked and not give them access to where they were parked, and then continue to push them down 51st. You know, this is all caught on different live feeds. There were several different live feeds going last night. So these officers that seem to be praised all the time intentionally went out of their way to keep people from being able to return to their cars to return home at the end of the protest, and then actively colluded to guide and entrap these protesters on that bridge. There's audio clippets just from what I could hear on the live feeds. And Norm Leong was in charge of that yesterday. He was the commanding officer there. He was also the commanding officer where people were being released. I would like to make sure that he has repercussions for what he just did to everybody. And Howard Chan, the police are your responsibility. They listen to you. You give the orders to the police at the discretion of the city council. So the whole city council is just as guilty. But Chan, this is on you. Everything from Stephon Clark and everything on is on you,
Clark.
your shoulders.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Justice.
Our next speaker is Larry Bell, then David Andre, and then Joan Marie. Mr. Bell here? I don't see Mr. Bell. David Andre, then Joan Marie, and Dietrich Lockhart.
I'd like to ask City Council to post the rules of engagement. Last night, I saw the grenade launchers being aimed at myself and other people within 3 feet. We talked about that at previous City Council meetings when the authorization to buy the grenade launchers. And we warned you guys without proper training that would happen. 3 feet from people, the grenade launchers were being pointed. Okay, that's a deadly weapon at 3 feet. What's the rules of engagement? City Council, we need to post that for peaceful protesters. Or more people get killed. Please.
Next speaker is Joan Marie, then Dietrich Lockhart, then Reverend Shane Harris.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to say just first that I am a Compassion Ambassador for Compassion Sacramento. And our city is uncomfortable right now, but it's not uncomfortable enough. To become the compassionate city that so many Sacramentans had envisioned, we work every day, and we need to step further away from our comfort zones into a discomfort of someone else's perspective, someone else's story, and someone else's pain. Last September, when the aspirational project Compassion Sacramento was launched in Oak Park, the 8 districts' Compassionate Sacramento ambassadors have begun meeting with the districts' council members and community stakeholders. These ambassadors, Tanya Beverly, Russell Jonigan, Pauline Haynes, Sonny Wallabali, Melissa Hanson, Melina Penny Washington, Joan Marie, Laura Hanson, and myself are focused on priority issues in their district, from homelessness to human trafficking to parent after-school participation to the LGBT safety. We've begun to work on the behalf of the vision to have a more compassionate city. Right now, we are putting together a schedule for community meetings to learn what a compassionate city means to the residents of each district in the neighborhoods. The more we gather around the idea of what a compassionate city looks like, the more common ground we can find with moving together towards a healthier, safer, and more equitable communities. We've begun meeting with our city's police captains, the community organizations, and the neighborhood associations to support the desire to gain understanding and alleviate the pain that we inflict on each other through fear and disconnection. The vision of the compassionate city belongs to all of us, and to work to bring it forward, it belongs to all of us to do it too. So I just want to just speak about the fact that Sacramento right now is a compassionate city, and in this moment, even in this room, it's time to show compassion for everyone and hear from everyone's point of view. So that's all I ask of you guys is, like, when you're hearing everyone tonight, make sure that you're showing the compassion, because we've all already signed the resolution that that's what Sacramento is all about. That's it.
Our next speaker is Dietrich Lockhart, then Reverend Shane Harris, then Gregory Galvanovich. Dietrich here? Oh, thank you. Reverend Shane Harris, Gregory Galvanovich.
Reverend Harris is here.
Thank you, Reverend Harris.
Hello, Mayor Steinberg. I'm Reverend Brian Michael Livingston, the Sacramento chapter president of the People's Alliance for Justice. I want to thank all of my young brothers and sisters that stand with me and that stand before you today to show their hearts to you. The only thing that was missing from yesterday's excessive use of force from the Sacramento Police Department was a burning cross and white sheets. You all entrapped these people and used excessive force, and we are outraged. And we will not rest until you all know what justice looks like. Mayor Steinberg, the next time that you know something like that is going on in your city, get out of your bed and come and stand with your people. Come and stand with your people. I'm going to bring now our national president up to speak. He's been with the family of Stephon Clark since the inception of the matter, and he's going to speak and address you all. I give you all our national president of the People's Alliance for Justice, Reverend Shane Harris.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I want to begin by saying that we are here a year later, a year after the killing of Stephon Clark. I've been standing with the family since the beginning, and I made a commitment to them. I want to say that a year ago, where we were, we are back here again. Why are we back here again? Because last night over 80 people were peacefully protesting, and I was out there with them to know it. And while 80 people plus me, which makes it 81, were arrested and taken into detainment, enough is enough. The plan of aggression by the Sacramento Police Department didn't start yesterday. It started weeks ago when you were trying to put community leaders and preachers in your pocket to sell them out to their community to compress the movement. But I want you to know today that not only locally, nationally, we are ready to mobilize because local prosecutors investigating local police is a conflict of interest, and Schubert knows it. I may not be here in Sacramento, but we have our leaders here. And last year you ran me out. But I want you to know I can come anytime I want now because I run my own organization. You can't call nobody to shut me down. I come to Sacramento anytime I want. There's three things that we want. Three things that the family of Stephon Clark wants. One, we want you to fire Chief Hahn, who we called last night and couldn't get a hold of you, but you say you want to build trust with the community, but you won't trust the leaders who are reaching out to you. Tell me how that works. Chief Hahn, we recommend that you fire Sacramento police officers Murderkel and Robinette, who killed Stephon Clark last year. I call on City Manager Howard Chan to approve and execute this recommendation immediately. Two, I call on the mayor and the council give full policy review and subpoena and disciplinary recommendations powers to the Sac Police Commission. And let me finish. And finally, I call on the Sac City Council and the Mayor Steinberg to adopt AB 392 because police officers that use excessive force, and we're dealing with DAs who are investigating their own people who they work with.
Thank you, Reverend.
Enough is enough.
Please.
California needs to set a precedent, and Sacramento needs to lead it. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Gregory Glavanovich, Janelle Hope, and Ryan McClinton.
Gregory is...
Is Mr. Glavanovich here? No. Janelle Hope, then Ryan McClinton.
Ryan?
Is Janelle Hope here? Thank you. Following Janelle is Ryan McClinton.
Please.
Good afternoon, City Council. I'm sorry I was out last night with my people and my voice is gone. My body is aching. My back is hurting. We marched for 3 hours peacefully. We stayed out at Cal Expo. Wait, I'm gonna get there till 3 a.m. And where were you all? So if my voice shakes a little bit, if I can barely stand up here, please note that these were the conditions that many of us were subjected to yesterday and last night and through the early hours of this morning, and still had to get up and go to work and fight for our freedom again and be here today. So bear with me. You all, we are a traumatized community. You all had 1 year to conduct a fair investigation, 1 year to reimagine policing and how you would conduct yourselves when you interact with the community, 1 year to figure out better tactics and strategies when meeting with protesters. But somehow we did even worse than we did last year. Somehow you topped yourselves. You pulled out batons less than 10 minutes ago in the city chambers. You pulled out batons on civilians. We call that Gestapos. We call those fascists. We call them Nazis. Because that is what you have done today. You somehow topped yourself. You took students. Now, I know we love to talk about the clergy and the press, but y'all took my babies. You took children that I've educated in this community, and you took them and you cited and released them over what? Peacefully protesting. You met us with brutalized force. And I know this region loves to tout itself for being bike friendly, but you somehow have weaponized bikes. Take the bikes away. You have weaponized bikes. How do you weaponize bikes? This is America, as Childish Gambino said. I want y'all to watch. This is America. This is Sacramento, and this ain't as good as we can get. You all need to do so much better. And while I've known that this city has always been racist and classist, but the way you all had your militarized police respond to us because we descended upon East Sacramento, we descended upon the Fab 40s. Shit like that don't happen in South Sacramento. It does not. You showed the clear divisions of redlining that we have known have existed here for history. You pushed us to that bridge because Oak Park was on the other side of that motherfucking bridge. That's why you pushed us, to let us know we don't belong here. You pushed us out of the neighborhoods. You protected whiteness.
Ms.
You
Hope,
protected
your 3
property.
minutes is complete.
You did not protect people.
Thank you, Ms. Hope.
Y'all owe our babies something.
Complete.
I had to go teach today.
Ms. Hope.
While I waited till 3 a.m. for babies to get out of jail.
My next speaker is Ryan McClinton. Ms. Hope, your time is complete.
People were walking in the dark in Cal Expo.
Ms. Hope.
Those were unfit conditions.
Thank you, Ms. Hope.
Unfit conditions. Shame on you. You had to walk in the dark.
Ms. Hope, your time is complete. Thank you, Ms. Hope.
Have a better plan. This type of policing does not work.
Thank you, Ms. Hope. Please take a seat. Please take a seat. Thank you, Ms. Hope.
Yes, of course. Okay. Finish. No.
My last point, and I would like you all to hear it clearly. Every time we go out into the streets, white folks love to say, oh, you all should go do your jobs. Why are you out here wasting time? Go get a job. Go do something useful. We have jobs. Part of our job is to be here to demand our freedom, but part of our job is also to be able to go out and fight for folks. And what I'm asking for you today is to do your job. We have a list of demands that are very clear. Somehow the buck keeps getting passed. You say, oh, it's Schubert's responsibility. Oh, it's Howard Chan's responsibility. It's Chief Hahn's responsibility. Oh, state law. Oh, POBAR. Oh, all the excuses. We need somebody to do their job. Somebody to use the actual powers that have been granted to you all as elected officials. Because if not, we ready to recall those asses. We are ready. We are ready. Know that the people are ready. Our demands: fire the officers, Howard Chan. I'm looking to you directly in the eyes. Fire the officers, Howard Chan. Mayor Steinberg, Howard Chan, drop all the charges from people that were arrested last night. You have, beyond press and clergy, you have young people who have brilliant futures ahead of them, who are facing misdemeanor charges for demanding their right for freedom and fighting for their community. drop the charges, fire the officers. 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 Now, I don't know how much more clear we can be. We have told you what we would like to do. We have pointed out to the people who are in power. We have made campaigns. We got folks who do policy up in here. We have doctors. We have lawyers. We have every profession. We have organizers on the ground who have worked in every facet of government trying to get these issues addressed. And here we are 1 year later, and no channel has worked. Fire the officers, drop the charges. 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 I don't know how y'all sleep at night, because I didn't. I didn't sleep. Fire the officers and drop the charges.
Next speaker is Ryan McClinton. Henry.
No, Ryan just spoke.
Ryan just did. Okay. Henry Ortiz, Anita Ross, Lasaya. Is Henry here?
Excuse me, Ryan ceded his minutes to you. No, excuse me, you're not running the meeting. I'm running the meeting here, please. Next, Ms. Ross. Anita Ross. Anita Ross. Ms. Ross.
Is Henry Ortiz here?
Ms. Ross. Anita Ross.
I'm going to respectfully ask for Ryan McClinton to have his 3 minutes, and then I will.
No, this is not the way. No, I'm sorry. No. Ryan.
Bill, if I may.
Please, excuse me. Ryan.
If I may, I won't take much of her time.
Go ahead.
I have a few words to speak.
Okay.
The reality is, I hate every time I have to be at this dais. I hate every time I have to be at this podium. Every single time that I have to be at this podium, our system has failed our community. Period. Many of you know how hard I go for this community because I love it, I bleed, I sweat it, I live every moment of this. The voices you see in here, the leaders that you see, the voices that I concede for, because these are the people who are honestly fighting in the spaces that aren't seen, when the cameras aren't here, where the people that you don't recognize aren't fighting for our people. Our people are advocating. Those are the people I go hardest for, because these are the people who are unsung heroes. The babies that you will honor in these spaces are educated by these people. They're elevated by these people. The people who I stood on a bridge being bogged down and trapped with last night, the babies, the brilliant minds of our future that we elevate, are the people this community says we love, but we don't show it. We don't show it. For the first time in my life, I felt I was attacked by my city when I seen 250 police officers fully armed up coming down on students. Let me say that again. Students, clergy, community members, and peacekeepers. This happened because I was peacekeeping. I was doing the job that I'm not paid to do like that. I do it because I love our community. And I'm taking up a lot of time, and I really don't want to take up too much of Anita's time, because she is a great leader in this city, and you need to hear her voice as well. But I do need you guys to understand that our systemic failures have to stop now, and it starts by you taking bold action. Firing these officers isn't just about saying, okay, we just want to see you guys do something finally. No, this is public safety. Our community is telling you we don't feel safe with these officers on the street. I need you guys to hear this and understand it deeply. Where we ask you to pass AB 392, it's not about just getting some political win. No, it's about how do we change the culture of how our babies are dying in our streets. You guys have that ability to do that locally. The commission that we fought for, that we advocated so hard for, and you told us this is the only way we could do it. Larry, you know what I'm talking about. You told us that we had to go to a ballot to go ahead and get us to the next level. So the way that it's operating now, where they made a recommendation that they said we want all of our intentions to go on setting the standard higher for deadly force, each and every one of you have it on your desk. Why hasn't it been on the agenda? Why hasn't it been a vote yet? Why aren't you supporting it when you said last year you will support any bill that brings police reform to our city and our state? I need to see this happen.
I
We are scheduling
I
meetings.
do support it, Ryan.
And I need everybody to support it. I need to come on. Hold on. Daryl, I appreciate that, and Mayor Daryl, I appreciate that, but what I need to see was action behind that. I need to see it on next week's agenda, and I need to see a 9-0 vote that passes. That's what it means to support it to me. That's what it means to support it to us. Show us with action. You guys do some good work at times. We need you to do great work right now.
Faith without works is dead.
Anita, take your 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Go.
Anita Ross, I come to you as a leader of Women for Equality. I come to you as the mother of 3 Black children. I come to you as the wife of Reverend Kevin Ross, who was arrested last night, and is clergy and the father of my children. That's the capacity I come to you. I need to tell you that my body is hurting. I wasn't there last night, and my body is traumatized. On Saturday, let me start by saying injustice is trauma. Being on the receiving end of excessive force and abuse of power is trauma. And the witnessing of that and any thereof is trauma. So now you have 84 from last night, and then you take all their family members and you take all the people that are impacted, and you look at your city. Your city is divided and your city is hurting. On Saturday, the DA, we all knew. We knew what the decision was. And so she reopened a wound. But what we didn't expect was for her to open up a new wound and to vilify and put Stephon Clark on trial. It was completely out of line. And I did not hear people say that was out of line. There are leaders here that can say it's out of line. And then you have people hurting and come out in the community because we have to be heard. We have to be heard. Even AB 392, as I sat with Assemblymember Kevin McCarty, said, all this will do is let the people say and call bullshit on use of force. That's all we can do. So what do we have to? We have to hit the streets. We have to speak up. We have to be here angry. Where do we go? We have laid out an opportunity for you to move from partial city officials, because right now you represent part of the city. And you can move. We're laying it out for you to move to city officials and own your titles. Become leaders in pushing and making sure AB 392 passes. That's one. Fire. Howard Chan, I don't know if you got the memo, but you need to fire these officers. Fire the officers. I'm not sure what that blank look means, but fire the officers. Fire them. Take a stand. Be about this for real. Like for real. Be in leadership. Step into leadership. We have asked you to give this Sacramento Police Commission more power. Let them have full review, policy review. Let them have subpoena power, and let them have recommendations for you know what I'm talking about, recommendations for discipline. And lastly, drop the charges of every single person who was taken last night and arrested and treated like cattle. My husband was sitting on a sidewalk in the cold. His wrists have marks on them from last night. Have a heart. Represent humanity. Thank you.
Next speaker is Henry Ortiz. Is Mr. Ortiz here? Following Henry Ortiz is Lazaya, then Reverend Brian M. Livingston. Lazaya?
Good evening, and thank you for your time. To everyone that was out there last night, thank you for being there, but I'm sorry you had that.
You speak to the City Council.
There's a couple things I want to talk about. We had a decision on Sunday, and then we had a decision today. And I understand use of force was necessary to stop the threat. But did it really take 20 bullets to stop the threat? Did they know what they were shooting behind Mr. Clark? They're adjoining yards, neighborhoods. People are coming out when they hear the helicopter. Did it really take 20 shots to stop him? When the threat was eliminated, where was the medical assistance? Okay? I don't think Mr. Clark stood for those 20 shots. I think he hit the ground pretty quickly, and it's my understanding you should call for medical assistance. That's cruel and unusual punishment. We didn't hear the DA talk about anything like that. She did not mention, after the officers checked on one another, which is appropriate, no one called for help immediately. We had a female officer still asking Mr. Clark if he was okay. Obviously, he wasn't moving. I understand they don't know if the threat is completely eliminated or if it's a ruse. I get that. But you can have an officer cover another officer while they try and make sure he's not a ruse. There has to be something with excessive force. There has to be. I don't know what that looks like, but 20 shots is a lot. Saturday, I listened to our DA speak. I was with my 81-year-old mother. I'm not originally from this area. I grew up in Washington, D.C., and I grew up around a lot of demonstrations. My mother asked me, why is she talking about the mother of his children? Why is she talking about specific texts that was shared between them? Why is she bringing an uninvolved party into this situation who can't defend herself? And the only thing I could come up with is the woman does not have a soul. She is soulless. I lost my brother when he was 22, and I don't know how I would have reacted if she would have said some of the things about him. I think we would have had a situation. So my time is up. I don't know who supervised her, but someone needs to look into her actions.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Reverend Brian Livingston, then Armando Flores, then Sally Shapiro. The Reverend here. Armando Flores. Sally Shapiro. Ms. Shapiro. Following Ms. Shapiro is Kevin Boltz, then Dr. Christy Higgins.
Yeah, I'm passionate about my singing because I apologize. I can't speak as eloquently as you all, but I applaud you, everything you said. And I'm also singing for the suffering of the homeless, which happens daily, hourly, and every minute.
I got it.
Many trials to you. May you keep on smiling in your gin. You create a scary zoo from the evil games you need to win. Many tries to you. You help the wealthy class. They cook you a Ponzi stew, and you give them a free pass. Happy trails to you. You labor for a dime. You who earn so little, you had not to be so kind. Happy trails, especially to you. They've kicked you to the curb. They said they would help you, but they haven't kept their word. Happy trails to all of us, still having God-given free will, while doing what we must. In each may God's holiness fill.
Hello, everybody. I want to start by addressing something you said when you came right back in. You said if we acted in the fashion we did again, this meeting could not go on. Yet multiple people have been killed by these motherfuckers since Stephon, and it has, no, shut up, it has continued to go on. So you care more about decorum in here than you do people who are alive. Because you shut down meetings over decorum. Stop looking at me like that, you're so mature. But you haven't shut them down over killing people. My journey with Sacramento killing black people began with Joseph Mann, a human being in need of emergency medical attention. He was instead met with the care of Sac PD in the form of "fuck this guy, I'm gonna hit him," Officer Tennis. Last year, Stephon Clark, a human being regardless of accused activities, toxicology reports, or relationship status, was a human being with a Fourth Amendment right, who instead was criminalized due to his race and murdered in a state-sanctioned execution. You can't even look at me, I'm so right. Last evening, I watched an overfunded and hyper-militarized force, not police, occupational force, agitate protesters, instill fear and panic, and then kettle them in a classic kettle and corral tactic, which, by the way, was started in the open-air prison known as Palestine by Israeli police and taught to our police all over this country. How much we pay to learn that? The underlying factor of all these cases is SAC law enforcement dehumanizes people on our dollars and with your agreement. When was the last time you were dehumanized? Because I think it's about time. You have shown zero ability to empathize with us. You have shown less ability to care. You are all terrible officials, in my opinion, worse people. To quote Dr. King, a riot is the language of the unheard, and you ain't fucking listening. The last person who spoke before the singer said Anne-Marie Schubert has no soul. To quote Stokely Carmichael, in order for peaceful protest to work, your overseer has to have a conscience. You don't have one. You radicalized 84 people on a bridge last night for no reason. They showed up peacefully and were still arrested. Someone up here with all your education, explain to me why they should be peaceful next time. What is the onus? What is the impetus? You fucked them up when they were peaceful. You don't get it. You don't listen. You think it's gonna stay like this. And I'm gonna start right here with saying, I don't speak for anyone else or any group out here. This city's gonna burn in the next 30 to 60 days if you don't shut up and listen.
Shut it down! It's Dr. Christy Higgins, Amrit Sandhu, and then Fernando Nadal.
Good evening.
Evening.
My name is Dr. Christy Higgins. I'm a psychologist. American tonight will be walking away with. And so I want to just let the community know, at least, that part of the work of Safe Black Space is creating opportunities for African Americans to come together to address and to look at the institutional and systemic kind of impact of racism on our psyche, on our experiences, and on our reality. And so we are offering and have been offering these Safe Black Spaces for our community since the killing of Stephon Clark every month. We'll be doing one again this Thursday night at Unity of Sacramento at 6:30 p.m. for African American folks who identify as dealing with and addressing this trauma. I encourage those of you who do not identify as African American to take stock of what you have heard tonight, to be willing to be courageous and to have brave conversations about how we create change, that we take seriously the community's demand that the officers be fired, that we as well adopt AB 392, and that we remember this quote from Audre Lorde that I think is appropriate for me to close with. She says, "If you are silent about your pain, they'll kill you and say you enjoyed it." We're not going to be silent anymore.
The next speaker is Amrit Sandhu, Fernando Nadal, and then Rashid Sadiq.
I'm Amrit Sandhu. I was one of the people arrested last night. I'm also the former president of the Elmhurst Neighborhood Association, my neighborhood, where I was arrested walking home to my house. Not part of the protest. The protest was over. I was walking home. The last person I saw, the last neighbor that I saw before my walk home on 51st Street was my friend, my neighbor, and a friend of many of yours, Assemblymember Kevin McCarty, who also lives in my neighborhood. And we had, a hug, and we were confused about what I know now was kettling. At the time, didn't know. When I tried to cross the police line to get to my house, which the only way I walked there, the only way I could walk back home was that bridge. 48th was closed because the police were pushing people back and kettling all sides. They'd created a circle. I thought I had safe access on 51. I learned later that the police were there too in the streets and that I had no safe way to get home. I am in intense physical and emotional pain today. I've been involved in social justice movements for 2 decades now, in law, in policy, and I've actually never been arrested. I've always been a step removed, but this time it was me, and that was not the outcome I wanted. When I was arrested, my hands were bent toward my wrist until I screamed and until tears flowed out of my eyes, and I said that you're hurting me. And the officer said to shut up, and I told them I'll shut up when they stop hurting me, and they didn't stop until they put me on the sidewalk. I want to let all the Black people in this room know that they are welcome in East Sacramento. And since it's Women's History Month, I want to thank all the Black women who have been organizing all year. I have 10 seconds left, and I have something. The clapping took 10 seconds of mine, but I also, in addition to the charges being dismissed against all of us kettled yesterday, There are people in this room who have been arrested in the last year, including my friend Ebony Harper, for nonviolently protesting. She's scheduled to officiate my wedding in April. She cannot be dealing with this stuff. I need you to work on getting these charges dismissed. And I just want to say that feeling is not weakness, and all the feelings in this room that have been shared are valid so long as Black people are being killed through state-sponsored violence. Thank you.
Now, why didn't you check her on her time? Why didn't you check her on her time? Every Black person who got up and spoke over their time, you told them to shut up. You didn't say anything to her.
Please, come on, please.
Because she's right. You mad because she's right. You didn't even make eye contact with her while she spoke.
Implicit bias training for city council.
Fernando Nadal.
Y'all love training. That's implicit bias, y'all. That's
Fernando
systemic
Nadal here.
racism.
Is Fernando Nadal here? Rashid Sadiq? Okay. Following Mr. Sadiq is Anna Maria Rugland, and then Betty Williams.
Well, I guess what they are speaking of is white privilege, right? White privilege acts in a lot of different ways. Last night was an emotional night. I was talking to a few people who had folks who were detained on the bridge. I want to give one thank you to Rick Jennings for answering my calls, for giving me information that a lot of these folks' families needed because they didn't know what was going to happen with their children, with their husbands, with their wives, with their friends. I think it was a very unnecessary move. Mayor, we've been meeting for 5 weeks trying to plan for the inevitable. But the inevitable is here, and we did not do well. We flunked. So we need to find out. I can't believe that Chief Hahn does not have understanding of what happened last night. If he's the chief, if I'm the CEO and president, I know what's going on with my people. I think if that's going on, if people are taking actions without his direction, there's a problem. Howard Chan, we haven't heard anything from you. You haven't shown up at any of our meetings, as usual. And I don't know what kind of command that is, but we need action. And we have not seen action. We had people at the hospital last night, broken ankles. This guy's still in pain. So I don't know what kind of tactics they use, but I know it looks like something from the 60s. So, Mayor, if this is going to be your legacy, this is going to be a sad legacy. This is going to be a sad legacy. We have tried. We have done everything to meet with you, to try to understand what your struggle is, but before we even understood our own struggle. And building black, building brown, none of that has worked. Now we're worse than we were last year. And now we got the Attorney General has now said he found him not guilty. The DA, we talked to Selena at the mall. She came out to the mall with the babies. She was hurt because they blamed her for his death. That's basically what she was saying. He was death by suicide by cop because he was so suicidal over the relationship or lack of a relationship. It's crazy. It's crazy. So we have to have action. We cannot do the dance anymore. Let's stop dancing the political dance, Mayor. We have to put something on paper. I know, I tell you, you're a good politician. It may work for your community. It never works for ours. It never works for ours. And it's still not working. This morning I cried. I woke up, I cried because it felt like a nightmare. I cried. But you know what?
Mr. Sadiq, your time is complete. Will you
No.
make your final comments?
No, this is a compliment. Hold on, y'all. I'm done. Hold on. Wait.
Let me just say one. Finish up. Just finish up.
I can say that I'm very proud of my Sacramento friends and families that answered call to 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning, picking people up at Cal Expo. It was people contacting me that I never spoke to. showed up in vans, cars, and they made 2 and 3 trips to get people back to where they were, or back to their car, or back to their home. So I can say we are a proud Sacramento people, and we do care about our community. We want to know if you care about us.
Anna Maria Rugland, then Betty Williams, then Scarlett Bustos. Anna Maria here?
Yeah,
Thank you.
of course.
Following Anna Maria is Betty Williams, and then Scarlett Bustos.
Sacramento, fondly referred to as a destination city by our mayor, where the unhoused die on the streets, no shelter for the elderly, women and children, and no relief in sight. Sacramento, the destination city where the citizens' voices are silenced, where our First Amendment rights are not respected. Last night, a peaceful protest was held in the most affluent neighborhood in Sacramento to bring to light the inequities, racism, and police brutality in our city that those that live there are insulated from. Our voices were silenced by your Gestapo. We were given orders to disperse with nowhere to go. We were given orders to comply that we were unable to fulfill. We were corralled into a corner on a freeway overpass. We had youth that were terrified, crying. I had to comfort many. One was hyperventilating and no medical assistance was offered to her. Kind of cruel. I'm proud of my community. I'm proud of all of y'all. But I'm ashamed to call myself a Sacramento. Fuck Sacramento.
My name is Brandy Wood, and I got detained, arrested.
Ms. Wood, would you
assaulted
move
by
over?
a bike, officer and their bike last
Ms.
night.
Wood, we
No,
can't hear you.
no,
We can't
no.
hear you unless you
Do
move
know
to the microphone.
that my ankle is broken because of the acts of Sacramento Police Department. Do you know when I got released about 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, I couldn't go home to my family. I had to go straight to the hospital and stay there for hours, not for no minor, because my bone is broke. Do you know when I went home, my 9-year-old son, my king, said, Mommy, what happened? And I can't tell my baby what happened because y'all are monsters. And we're supposed to tell our babies that you're protecting us. And even though I want to lie to my son and tell my baby that he'll be okay, because y'all, I can't lie to my king. I can't tell him that the same person that broke his mother's foot when she was unarmed and her hands were in the air, when she was following directions to get to her vehicle, that's where I was going, and got assaulted by an officer in his bike. And it obviously wasn't a bump if my bone got broke. I am a citizen in Sacramento, and I've never spoke out loud. I've never been in a position like this, and I am appalled. Corral ain't even the word. I haven't slept. I'm in pain. I made sure I didn't take my pain meds so I could come here. My husband's standing out in the rain right now. So I can come here. And you're sitting there holding your head? You're holding your head? Then you need to resign your damn self, because you ain't man enough to be in You got a headache? You got a headache? How do you think we feel? How do you think I feel? And the word is action. That's the key word. Because I see what you're doing with our children, also opening these little pop-ups. Stop using our children as pawns. We don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need no little skating. We don't need you to do that. It's us. You need to do your action and get these people out of office and make a change, or they're going to continue on doing this. And it's on your back, Mr. Mayor.
Do your job. The next speaker is Betty Williams, Scarlett Bustos, and then Fong.
Good evening, Mayor. I'm Betty Williams, President of the Greater Sacramento NAACP. What I can tell you is that what you're witnessing tonight is pain from the drama that happened last night. What I can tell you, as the President of the NAACP, we had something called Ground Zero, where we were responsible for taking on the calls and calling attorneys and bail bondsmen in the event something happened. What I can tell you, I was part of many of those meetings that we had here in City Hall to manage and to talk about how we would deal with what I call the verdict of the DA. As I told you, I decided to stop coming to the meetings because I felt it was trying to control our speech. I told you that I could not walk with you because I felt that you didn't hear our pain and would not allow us to walk as we wanted to walk. You proved me right yesterday. Our phones, as I watched the live feed, as my group was watching and preparing to call attorneys, I saw our people walk in peace. I saw the police position and get ready to move on them. So I immediately told my team, I said, they're getting ready to be arrested. Get ready. Call the attorneys. Get ready. So everyone got on board. We got so many calls last night regarding help. It crashed our system. That's how many calls we got last night. We took those calls, and then later I had to post on Facebook where everyone should go in order to meet or to find their loved ones. When I got there, I felt like I was in a MASH unit. The trauma was so thick from what they had went through was ridiculous. When I saw the youth from Sac State trembling, but I stayed there until every single one was released. Even at the time when I thought everyone was released, I heard someone say, Ms. Williams, we have one more. Please come back and make sure we release that one more. What you don't seem to understand is the pain and the trauma, and you have invested millions of dollars in training our law enforcement to treat us like this? Mayor, I did hear you that you are going to support AB 392, but I didn't hear the rest of the City Council saying that they would support 392. I'm also asking why we saw that the DA took 75% of their time to take out Stephon Clark and 25% to say why she was convicting him. So I want, at the local level, for you to take the time, when this happens again, and it will, to do the toxicology of police officers the way you did toxicology.
Ms. White, your time is complete. Will you make your final comments?
As I finish, also take the text messages of police officers 48 hours prior to them. And my last word to you, Mayor and City Council, it ain't over.
Next speaker is Scarlett Bustos, then Fong, then John Stoller.
Hi, Mayor Steinberg, Mayor Pro Tem Ashby, council members, hello. My name is Scarlett Bustos, and I'm a local activist here in Sacramento. This isn't where I wanted to announce this, but in January I became the lead coordinator for the Women's March in Sacramento. And I was one of the thousands of people who was watching that live stream last night, and it was absolutely painful. One of the things that most pained pained me that I went and looked back over and over again was the police officers threatening the protesters with both lethal and non-lethal force. I had to rewind the tape multiple times just to see that I heard it right, and that's what was said, that they were threatening lethal and non-lethal force for protesters. And Women's March is a protest. I'll have you know, it's a protest. Yes, we're organized, but yes, it's a protest. And I could have been out there. I have been out there. I've been out there multiple times, you know, and I was watching friends of mine in fear of this. So I don't want to take very much more time because I really do want to say that I personally, as the new lead coordinator of Women's March Sacramento, that I fully support the table who organized the protest last night and their list of demands. And if somebody from the table would like to talk about the list of demands or come up while I kind of say what they are. Ryan McClinton, if you're still here, that'd be really great.
We know what they are.
Number one, or Adrian, are you here? Yeah, Adrian, can Adrian articulate them for me so that I can say them?
Sure, I mean, they've been repeated a few times. We know what they are, the four things.
Okay. So number one, Chief Daniel Hahn, we'd like you to recommend the Sacramento City police officers, Terrence Mercadal and Jared Robinette, for termination immediately. City Manager Howard Chan approve and execute this recommendation immediately. Mayor and City Council give full policy review, subpoena, and disciplinary recommendation powers to the City Sacramento Police Department, Police Commission, please. The resignation or recall of District Attorney Anne Marie Schubert and Sheriff Scott Jones. Stop the over-policing of their neighborhoods. The Sacramento Unified School District, Twin Rivers Unified School District, Natomas Unified School District, end the contracts with and remove school resource officers, San Juan, that's SROs, AKA police from Sacramento area K through 12 schools. Sacramento Mayor and City.
Ms. Bustos, your time is complete. Will you make your final comment?
And drop the charges, and also to support AB 392 here in the city of Sacramento locally.
Next speaker is Fong, and then John Stoller.
All right. It's been a while, but you know, I am here to remind you again that you need to learn from the people. We came together. We came together while you were trying to sleep in your bed. We came from a place of love. We came from a place of solidarity to talk about some of the things that's been happening in the city. So I did prepare something, and I will probably take over 3 minutes, but I will continue to speak, Becky.
No, you have 3 minutes, and take your 3 minutes, please. That's what you have. You're not taking more than 3 minutes. No, you're not. So go right ahead. Go right ahead. This is a public meeting.
You're interrupting me, Daryl.
Then start again.
You
start
are
her
interrupting
again.
me.
3 minutes. 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Go, and then you're going to be done. Go. Go.
Don't start yet. So, I don't call us protesters. We are conscientious objectors to injustice. To disperse, but moved in on them, leaving them no outlet. They rammed the bike into a woman, causing her to twist and break her ankle. That's battery. She had to be carried out to her car. I was helping her. They push people with their bikes and stood in formation with guns drawn. But mainstream media is saying another narrative, just like what you are trying to do. Trying to change things around, backpedal, saying sorry to Stephon Clark's family. You regret it. But you endorse Anne-Marie Schubert. You endorsed her. And tell the people, remember what you said? You told them, hell with you, Daryl. The police will tell lies and took their roid rage on women, students, and clergy. The police failed to disperse when people marched and held space peacefully. History is being made, but we need to continue to tell the people's history. White supremacy only serves and protects the white narrative of fear and hate. They force this narrative and believe any grief reaction or response to be from a place of their own fear of black, brown, and people of color. Now, how else would they justify their violence? Police are cowards and worthless to the people. They only serve bigots and white supremacy. We, the people, are more powerful.
Fong, your time is complete. Will you make your final comment?
I grieve the injustice and the failures of the city to let a black man live.
Fong, your time is
I am not
complete.
black, Becky.
Please wrap up.
I mourn for the loss of justice.
Away.
How can anyone be at peace?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. How can anyone be at peace? You will not rest. Sacramento.
My next speaker is John Stoller.
We recall Anne-Marie Schubert.
Ms. Lee, please sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Next. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down, Ms. Lee. Sit down, Ms. Lee. Next.
My next speaker is John Stoller. Then
John
Jade
Stoller.
Nicole, and
John
then Aaron
Stoller.
Minor.
Great.
All right.
One
so
more
first of
time, I'm
all-
going to ask anybody shouting out to leave.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Thank you all for coming back out after what happened. My name is John Stoller. I'm a defense attorney. I'm a former civil rights attorney, and I'm here today with the ACLU of Sacramento. I have a statement prepared by ACLU of Northern California, and then if I have time, I have a few of my own comments. Last night, this is from the ACLU. Last night, local Sacramento police attacked every single First Amendment protected right and freedom. Please save your applause to the end, please. 3 different police agencies conspired to arrest a pastor engaged in peaceful protest, an attack on religious freedom. They also conspired then to arrest a journalist, an attack on the freedom of the press, and then they attacked a peaceful protest, also an attack on the First Amendment freedom of speech. Arresting peaceful protesters attacks the First Amendment rights of the people at large, and it attacks their rights to peacefully assemble and to petition their government to redress their grievances. The Sacramento area chapter of the ACLU, as the local grassroots representative of the nation's strongest defender of that First Amendment, we demand an investigation, we demand transparency and accountability for the unconscionable attacks on our rights and freedoms. So that's what the ACLU had to say, and Mayor, I did see your statements in the B that you do want an investigation. I commend you for that. Turning to my own comments, just as a former civil rights attorney, I question the legality of an order to lawfully disperse after corralling people in the manner it was done. It doesn't seem to me to be a constitutional use of the executive power to do it in that manner. to protest, and these people, I'm a professional public speaker, a lot of you are former lawyers, you're professional public speakers. These people are not professional public speakers, and to come out here takes a lot of uncommon courage. To go out and protest in the middle of the night takes uncommon courage. And I very much worry about the steps that are used by police in the future when it comes to mass arrests at protest, because you risk chilling free speech. These are people, some of them will come out and protest again, but many of them may not. Many of them may feel they cannot engage in free speech again. And so when you are going over your policies, as I know you will, you have said you will, so I believe that, but you also reach out to people that have represented these folks in the past, civil rights attorneys, public defenders, criminal defense attorneys, and look into those measures that reach into the constitutional nature of the actual orders that are given. Because it's very concerning when you have 84 people arrested in one night. That will chill speech. And it's not the first time I have seen this or seen these actions of a mass arrest during a protest. So thank you for your time.
Next speaker is Jade Nicole. I think Miss Nicole left. Aaron Miner and Brian Reese. Is Aaron Miner here? Thank you. Brian Reese is following Mr. Miner, and then Kat Carell.
My name is Aaron M. Miner. I am the Legislative Director of the Wellstone Progressive Democrats of Sacramento and an elected delegate to the California Democratic Party. I'm also one of the protesters who was arrested last night.
Listen, girl.
I can attest to the peacefulness of the march and to the brutality of the police last night. The police stalked us for over a dozen blocks, growing in strength and numbers as they proceeded. And at the very end of the march, when we had reached its natural conclusion, they stood behind us initially in a phalanx about 30 men wide and 3 rows deep, fully armed with police batons at the ready, with assault rifles at the ready, and plenty of other weapons that I cannot identify, for I'm not so well trained in their use as our honorable police officers. The pretext they used for their arrests was counts of vandalism, about 5 cars they claimed were keyed, and a stolen MAGA hat. But when I was detained, and when I was charged with refusal to disperse, they did not question me at all about vandalism or about the MAGA hat. They simply kept me in cuffs for about an hour and a half at the very least. I do not know, because I was not looking at the clock when I was arrested. But it was at least an hour and a half, and they were very tight cuffs. Despite that, it seems I got off a lot easier than many of my black and brown colleagues. The fact of the matter is, it seems to me that this was indeed nothing but a pretext to disrupt a peaceful, protected protest. Now, the police will no doubt tell you that they were simply doing their job, that they're doing this by the book. But to be honest, we've heard these excuses before. And I don't just mean we in general, but also you and I, specifically, Mayor Steinberg, as fellow gentlemen of Jewish descent, and we heard this at Nuremberg. And I make that comparison seriously, because the Nazis were inspired by the genocide of the Native Americans and the violence perpetuated against African Americans in this country. Fascism existed in this country before there was a name for it. And it persists today thanks to you. The demands of my fellows which they have already made, are more than reasonable. They have the right to demand more. And since I see my time is almost up, I'll close with one more statement. Nearly most of the people who have spoken here stood down the same phalanx that I did. And despite the fact that what I endured was only a fraction of what they must endure on a regular basis, they stood their ground. I did my best as well. But in the face of a room full of unarmed,
Mr. Miner, your time is
unarmed,
complete. Will you
loud
make your
people,
final comment?
you ran away, Mr. Steinberg. You ran away.
Thank you.
Send the cops
Our next speaker is Brian Reese, then Kat Carell.
Hello, my name is Brian. I am a lifelong Sacramento. I was happy to and proud to be out there protesting with everyone last night, peacefully protesting. I was happy to be peacefully protesting with him when a man came out with the modern symbol of white supremacy, a MAGA hat, and he started antagonizing this peaceful protest. I was proud how the protesters, even as things started to flame up, it wasn't the police who came and calmed things down, it was the protesters. They said, this isn't what we're out here, this isn't our mission, back on mission. We started marching again. Please listen. This is worth listening to. It was peaceful. There's this nonsense about cars being keyed. Nonsense. There were so many live videos. Check them. Find a single protester keying a car. Let's see it. I want to see it. We have tons of video. They don't exist. I did see a car getting damaged. And that was at the end when a cop was taking his bicycle and shoving it into 3, 4, I don't even know how many people, as they rammed into this car over and over again. Your police. It was crap. We had already dispersed. We'd finished to the end. The organizer said, okay, we've come to say our piece. The officers don't have anything left to hear that we haven't already said them. If we're ready, go ahead and disperse. It was only after that that they started moving forward and arresting. We were already dispersing. Why did they move on us? That's it right there. That's it right there. It's my turn.
I'm listening.
I
I've
need
asked
the rest
no
of my
shitting.
time because I don't have much else to say to whoever needs an extra minute.
No,
and
that's
15
not the way we
seconds.
do it. Thank you. Next. No, you sit down. No, sit down. Sit down. I will recess the meeting again unless you go sit down. Sit down. Go sit down. No. You've had a chance. No, you had a chance to speak. Go sit down. No. Next. If everybody else wants to be heard, this gentleman needs to sit down. No. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. I will recess this meeting in 30 seconds and let you sit down. Sit down. Sit down. You don't have any time left. Sit down. Next. You're done. Sit down, sir. You had your 3 minutes. Next. You had your 3 minutes.
Our next speaker is Kat Carell, Atunde Ikuku, and then Matthew Bridges.
I'm going to try to make sure everyone gets heard here. Go ahead, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm a member of the local board for the ACLU, Sacramento chapter. My fellow board member, John Stoller, already read the statement from the ACLU, so I will speak contemporaneously, or extemporaneously, rather. What happened last night was sad. I think we all agree on that. Now, the police had time to plan for this protest, and what we saw was their plan A, and it was terrible. So that's the problem, that was the police's plan A. That's the problem. So what's the solution? Because when you have a problem, many here are focusing on the problem, and that is so right for that to happen. That is so right. But let's move beyond that for a moment to what can be a solution.
Somebody hurt? Excuse me, I see somebody's lying down. Somebody hurt, I'm asking. No? Okay. Go ahead.
One solution is for this council to support AB 392, to pass a resolution and to let our state legislature know that you support a modified use of force standard for the entire state of California. Show that you support that in an official resolution. And another and more important thing, we need a civil police review commission. We need a civil run and populated board to review police actions in our community, because what has been happening so far is not working. There are excellent results with civilian police review boards in other cities. I can provide you with documentation on that, should you like. But I think you've probably had it brought to your attention before. But think of those too. Think in terms of the solutions. AB 392 supported, and a civilian police review commission. Thank you.
Thank you.
392.
Sorry?
Address 392.
Sure.
If you look at the City Council meeting on February the 26th, you will see we adopted a legislative platform. You can pull up the agenda and watch it on the internet, and you'll see that we passed in our legislative agenda not only to support 392, but also to support the Attorney General setting up an independent investigator when there's deadly force used by the police. So look at February the 26th. We've done it already, and it passed 9-0.
Just stop killing people. That's all we're
Hey,
asking
Ms. Lee,
for.
please,
We are
please.
asking for that. Stop killing
Next,
people.
next.
Our next speaker is Ayatunde Ikuku. Ayatunde.
I'm afraid of you.
No amount of
And Matthew Bridges, and then Earl Levels.
Next.
Give me a second. You know what? I wish I could say I was disappointed. I fucking told you specifically last year what was gonna happen. I told you that Sacramento was tired, and now you fucking beat us because you can't get your fucking pigs in control? Why was only one person on this motherfucking council the person to take away their endorsement from Schubert? Why is it public fucking knowledge that Schubert got fucking money from police institutions, which is a fucking DA? But only one of you had the fucking integrity to take away that endorsement. And you're wondering why people are pissed at you? You're not doing your fucking job. That's right. You don't care about the fucking people of Sacramento, and you're gonna fucking regret this. You're gonna reap what you have sown. I already told you this the fucking last year. I told you Sacramento was tired. I told you the fucking shit is festering. It's a fucking sickness, and it's caused by you. And you know what? The antidote is so fucking simple, and we already gave you fucking guidelines and blueprints and demand after demand, as transparent as we could have. Our fucking community leaders have already tried to sit in fucking closed meetings with you to do their best to try to be on the same level as you, knowing you're already corrupt as fuck, and still here we are fucking getting arrested in abundance and assaulted. When the fuck are you gonna do your job? When the fuck are you gonna do your job? And you know what? The funniest part about this is all this shit is recorded, and when people bring up your legacy, this is what they're gonna remember about all of you. Don't expect a fucking future because you're digging your motherfucking grave. You're digging your grave, and we are not gonna sit here and take your fucking bullshit because you lack integrity, and you perpetuate the dehumanization of Sacramento people, of black people, of people of color, of marginalized people who come here every fucking week to try to gain some sympathy from you soulless motherfuckers who all you fucking care about is dollar bills. It's not a fucking surprise, you know, that you don't have humanity, that you're in a fucking political position. But there's people out there who, for some reason, they still have hope, and every time, those same people are traumatized because they had that hope. They had hope that you'd protect their children, their family members. I just don't understand why you don't understand the importance of empathy. Basic fucking empathy. We are not asking for much. And this is not anything new. This has been going on since the fucking civil rights era. This has been going on since slavery, since the genocide of Native American people, since colonization. People just want you to leave them the fuck alone and let them live. Right. You have so much power to help so many people who are marginalized. Right. And you're fucking mad at us for asking help when you are the fucking resource. So where the fuck do we go? And you're And you are, oh my God, you are such a sensitive little bitch. You can't even hear profanity. You can't even hear fucking profanity. You're not out here getting beat by motherfucking grown-ass trained men with fucking weapons and big-ass bodies and tactical training. I swear to fucking God.
Sir,
Ooh,
your time is complete. Will you make your final
I'm
comment?
not I'm not a motherfucking sir, so do not assume shit. And that's what fucking wrong with you. You lack cultural competency. You cannot speak to your constituents properly. It's embarrassing. It's fucking embarrassing. I'm only 22.
Will you please have a
and I
seat?
can promise you my ethics
Next
are far
person.
more evolved than you.
Call the next person, please.
The
Thank
next
you.
speaker is Matthew Bridges, then Earl Levels, and then Joyce Levels.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next speaker. Sir, please sit down. Thank you. Would you have a seat, please? Matthew Bridges is our next
Please.
speaker.
I hear you. 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 Next.
People who hurt us, people who are on our side. And so either you are the person hurting us or you're going to support us. There's no...
Okay. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. I do hear you. I hear you. I hear you. Please, let us allow everyone to speak, please. I hear you. I hear you. Sir, you...
You took my word as a threat.
You called him a threat last year.
Sir, you need to stop now. I hear you. I do hear you, and I hear your pain. Please come on back. Come on back next week. Come on back again. Come on back again, okay? Please, next.
My next speaker is Matthew Bridges.
If you misgender anyone else in this chamber, I will call the ACLU right now.
So,
Right now.
Matthew Bridges, then Earl Lewis, then Earl Levels, and Joyce Levels.
I'm this close. Please, sir.
Matthew?
Thank you. So the pronouns are they, them. Am I correct? They, them.
Thank you.
Repeat after us.
They, them.
Please, we can't, we cannot, we cannot, we cannot hear everyone and finish the meeting if people continue to yell out. Excuse me, please, please. Go ahead, sir.
Right. Thank you. So if someone here were to ask me how I'm feeling right now, the answer to that question would be I'm fucking torn up. I was marching in the streets last night, and I was holding the line. I was walking in the back facing, it looked like a sea of armed police officers. And I was looking at them in their eyes, and I told them, I'm 22 years old. You know how old Stephon Clark was when he was shot? Do I have to prove to you that my life matters? I don't think so. Why do we have to prove to you that Black lives matter? Through all of this.
Thank you.
And I think it's really apparent in here that as human beings, we respond to each other's joy, and we also respond to each other's trauma and pain. And that's what's going on here. So the other question that I had is, why were there so many California Highway Patrol officers there last night? They were actively on call throughout the day. Now, SAC PD is one thing. We got our own issues to deal with here. The sheriff, that's another thing. We've got more issues. But when we're talking the California Highway Patrol, they're under a different a different system and set of policies. And that made me really, really scared. I was in fear for not only my life, but for all of these lives, for our community's lives, for the Black lives that were there last night. The unfortunate part is that these police officers who are out there, their morality is determined by the state and by the laws and policies that govern them. They cannot act individually, or else they will lose their jobs, which is exactly what should happen to the 2 officers who murdered Stephon Clark. The other thing I wanted to uplift quickly is that we did pass a Measure U in this city. I was out going door to door telling people in the community that this money was going to go to their communities. And albeit, there's been a few things funded toward youth community centers. But looking at the latest report, 6 out of the $11 million so far raised by Measure U were spent on police and fire. $508,000.
Bridges?
That's not true.
$500,000
Your time is
of
complete.
that
Will you
went
make your
to
final comment?
equipment, police equipment.
That's inaccurate, sir. I'd be happy to talk to you
Thank
later
you.
about that.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Earl Levels, and then Joyce Levels. My next speaker is Earl Levels, then Joyce Levels, Michelle Belton. Are the Levels here? Is Michelle Belton here? Thank you, Michelle.
Michelle Belton.
Following Ms. Belton is Elijah Diaz, and then Sarah.
Good evening. I don't have a whole bunch of special titles. I am just here because I am a mother of 5 boys. And all of you guys sitting here on the panel morally know that the crime that was wrong. The officers made a mistake. If it was your son, what actions would you want to have done if they would have shot your child? What repercussions would you want to have done? I think that the officers should be fired. You have to make good on this, because if you don't, there are going to be many Stephon Clarks after this. I am just here to try to keep my sons alive. And it's not even black on black crime anymore. It's police on citizen crime. And the police, we want to trust you. But Mayor Steinberg, you put up these pop-ups. My kids take pictures with you. Angelique, you know me. Mr. Warren, you know me. I am trying to keep my 5 young men on the right path. I am trying to have them be respectful to their peers and to their elders. But how can they do that if you killing us, if you guys are not knowing who we are, not knowing where we come from, if you don't tap into us? How can you do that? We're going to continue to have these discussions. But you guys have to make good on what we're asking for, and it's not much. We can't bring him back. We can't bring him back. But Mayor Steinberg, you are setting our children up for failure. You're setting them up to be disrespectful, to not being able to communicate without being disrespectful. And I'm trying to help my sons be respectful to everyone. And so I'm just asking you, is there a way that you can do that? You have the power. You guys up here have the power. We can talk, we can curse, we can yell, but that's not going to make it right. That's not going to fix what has happened. And all I'm saying to you is I am reaching out to you as a mother, as a single mother raising 5 black boys. You got to do something else different. You have to train our officers to be more sympathetic. You have to train our officers how to talk to us and we talk to you. You have to train our officers to come into my hood, come into my neighborhood, because nobody's neighborhood is better than the other. We're all the same at the end of the day. We bleed the same color at the end of the day.
Ms. Belton, your time is complete. Will you make your final comment?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Belton.
Next speaker is Elijah Diaz, then Sarah, then Olivia Monahan. Is Elijah here? Sarah? Is Sarah here? Following Sarah is Olivia Monahan.
I'm actually going to give my time to Miss Sonia. I would just like to say, though, that my children were out there last night. Fortunately, they got away last night, but we had to walk through dark streets to get back to our car. And the comment out of my 14-year-old son's mouth was, "Mom, I feel like I'm going to die tonight." And my very first response to him was, "We may have to hide." That's what Daryl Richards had to do. That's a name we haven't spoken here that your guys' police department has killed as well after that policy was implemented.
Are you Sonia Lewis? Are you Sonia Lewis?
Yes.
Thank you.
The tears, I so bad want to go back to March 18, 2018, when I got that emergency phone call from a friend in the neighborhood that Sac PD had converged on my beloved Meadowview, not Carr's Meadowview, not Steinberg's Meadowview. Because you two have been extremely complicit in letting Meadowview suffer for decades. A question has remained in my mind since that day and still remains. Are you at war with this community? Because the war tactics used last night are classic to what America, spelled Amerikakka, has always been with respects to white supremacy and the protecting of white privilege and comfortability in this country. This kind of treatment is indicative of taxation without representation, when in reality my black tax dollars are just as green as your white tax dollars and those who live in the Fab 40s. Taxation without representation means there are a very different set of rules of engagement with respects to law enforcement, criminal justice, education, healthcare, policy, etc. Taxation without representation means the police won't protect and serve my black ass the way that they will protect and serve your white ass. Steinberg, I declined, and thank you for wanting to include me in those meetings that you were having over the past month, but I declined them intentionally because over almost a year you've been silent to Stephon Clark. The rest of this city council has been silent too, and silence is violence. Complicity is equal to murder. Your silence, it is terror, it is trauma. Trauma is the realization that you are no longer safe. We are not safe. I am not safe. My 6 sons are not safe. Black skin is not safe. The home where Stephon was murdered was my Uncle Tommy T's home, where he lived for almost 50 years. They knocked on the neighbor's door, but they didn't knock on his. The sheriff helicopter, the dirty bird as we call it in the hood because we get over police so constantly, they didn't shine a light, and none of you have asked Schubert, who you endorsed, to ask a question about the Sacramento Sheriff Department, who did not turn on that bright-ass fucking light that terrorizes neighborhoods like Meadowview and Oak Park and Del Paso Heights on a regular. 20 years ago in the very neighborhood of Meadowview, Don Venerable was murdered by 2 Sacramento police officers with a cell phone in his hand because of property damage in his own driveway. Thank you, I'm going to finish. The tears I shed last night flowed nonstop because I realized what I was witnessing was a reincarnation of the KKK, that when I was 18 years old in Atlanta, Georgia, I witnessed them standing in a line as a bunch of college students were celebrating MLK's memorial. I wanted to go back home to Sacramento, California, because I did not feel safe when I was standing in front of the KKK. My body froze in 1989. Over this past year, I'm not as scared of him or them or him or him or any officer in blue that wants to say their blue life matter, which is an oxymoron because it does not exist.
Ma'am, you need to wrap up, please.
Last night, I was reminded of the experience that triggered my 18-year-old self, just like those babies who were on that overpass last night, who will stay with, that memory will stay with them forever, terrorized and arrested. It was reminiscent of Selma, Alabama, on that bridge where the police took over civilians who were marching for freedom and justice.
Sonia, your time is complete.
You to
Please
stop.
make your comment.
I'm done.
Thank you.
I need you to stop interrupting the community and listen. Stop pimping and pandering to our sensibilities. Because at the end of the day, the rubber meets the road with actions. And you're not showing us shit.
Olivia Monahan, and it's either Marie or Mark Godges, representing UC Davis.
So I don't like public speaking, and I hate y'all, so this is not really comfortable for me, but I'm here anyway. My name is Olivia Monahan, and I'm not really somebody that you care about. I am a single Latina mother. I am a mother of trans youth. I am a big-ass stoner. I write about hip-hop for a living, and I'm definitely not throwing money in any of your pockets. My mouth is dirty, and after last night, my mental is fucked up because I've protested in Mexico with AKs pointed at my head, with motherfucking federales screaming at me to move or die, and they had less hate in their eyes than these motherfuckers do now, and they did last night. Officers, overseers, we see you. Your hatred is showing. It boiled to the surface as it reddened the flesh of your cheeks, a shade of crimson so unnatural that it can only be created from a combination of malice and lack of melanin. It percolated in the heat of your breath as it fogged up the glass of your riot helmet, and it was etched in the white of your knuckles as you gripped that baton, wishing for a reason to use it, and God knows you did. We see you. Your ignorance is showing. It's evident in every move you make. It's evident in every move you let these motherfuckers make. It's evident every time that they were allowed to remind us that they could use lethal force whenever they wanted. It was clear in every threat that was screamed at us while we were reminded that you were capable of carrying out anything you wanted to do while you were wearing 20 pounds of armor and we only had our words. It was obvious how ignorant you are and will probably remain to be as you arrested clergy, judges, students, community leaders, and disabled veterans, and probably kids too, because I wasn't paying attention. We see you. Your time is running out, though. It's really funny to me to fathom that the hundreds upon hundreds of men and women in riot gear yesterday and the motherfuckers who lead them couldn't stop to ponder this one very important point. What reason do we have to be peaceful when you hunt us when we are? That's right. What reason have you given us to stay quiet when the only time you hear us is when I'm screaming the word fuck in your ear? And all you did was remind all of us that there might not be a reason for us to just sit here and take it anymore, because God knows we've been doing it for so long. You probably still don't hear me, though, and that's okay. I don't need you to hear me. Just know that we see you, and now you see us too. You will remember his name. The name of the man that you spent a year building a case against. A case that helped you assassinate his character in order for you to justify assassinating him. His name is Stephon Clark, and I promise you, you will not forget. The hat that I wear today says Sacramento versus everybody, and it says it for a reason. This is Sacramento. You're everybody. You're with us or you're against us. Stephon Clark was his name. Don't look at me. Stephon Clark was his name.
I'm not gonna look
Say
at
it.
you.
Say it.
Time is up, ma'am. Thank you. Next. Your time is up. Next. Oh, too bad. Go ahead. Enough. Enough. Next.
Either Mark
Next.
or Marie Godges.
Eric, you want to take over for me for a minute?
Shut up. You want to shush me? Take my fucking time. Meetings aren't about you. Bye. Take my time.
Here is Marie or Mark Godges. Last name is Godges, UC Davis.
Marie Godges.
Let me remind y'all that 80% of y'all are white. And it's our job as white people not to tone police people of color, but to listen to them. When they tell us they're being killed, it's not our job to ask them, why are you complaining that you're being killed? It's our job to stop killing them. Period. End of story. And the biggest problem here is the fact that people won't listen. The fact that there are empty seats and there are people outside in the rain. The fact that the one time you had to finally listen to your community, you guys left. You left. That's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing that when people stand up here fighting for their lives, that Darrell Steinberg leaves and you leave, but the fact that I'm here as a white guy means that you'll stay in your seat. That's embarrassing. Please do better. Do better. They have 5 demands they've listed for hours. I don't need to say them again. Fire him. Fire him. Fire him. Recall the DA. Recall the DA. Right? Recall the sheriff. Release the charges on the protesters. And stop over-policing communities, and stop killing people. Poverty is violence. Stop the housing disparity. Stop the education disparity. Stop the food disparity. Stop hurting other human beings because they have a different skin color and because you're comfortable in your status. Stop. It's shameful. I don't know what to say, man. Like, the fact that when I'm at a protest last night, that I have to stand there and know that the police won't kill me, but they could kill 3 of my friends? That's a shame. That means there's something wrong with the heart of this country. That means there's something wrong with the soul of this country and the soul of most white people in this country who won't stand up. Period. I'm done.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, clerk, please call the next speaker. There are no more speaker cards. I see no members punched up to speak. So at this point, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thanks, everyone. We're adjourned at, what time is it? 8:40.
My name. Speaker cards? My name.
No. We're out of speaker slips, so we're going to adjourn at 8:42.
It's already in. My name, I got it. My name is Khalil Ferguson. I was one of the 13 black students who shut down Arden Mall. I was one of the 30 black students who were arrested last night. MLK was arrested over 60 times during the civil rights movement. Although it was my first time, it will not be the last. While I was detained sitting on the side of that overpass, I love my history. So guess what I did? I asked show officers if they knew the history of the contentions between the black community and the police, stemming from our emancipation. Before our emancipation, the slave catchers, the slave patrol, up until the Fugitive Slave Act. Guess what? None of them knew that. None of them knew that. However, as I went down the timeline, up until the 1920s and the Ku Klux Klan and the peak of the Ku Klux Klan, up until the 1960s, when Eugene Bull Connors used water hoses and police dogs. He used water hoses and police dogs on peaceful civil rights demonstrators. But guess what your officer said to me? This is going to be fucked up. They said, but were you alive during that time? It don't matter. But guess what? One of them was Asian in front of me, so I said, what ethnicity are you? Because guess what? Which one are you? Japanese internment camp? Right. Or Chinese Exclusion Act? That's your grandma. That's your bloodline. Don't sit here and tell me that it does not matter to me because I didn't go through what my grandparents went through. Councilmember Jennings, we had a discussion the other day. You said what we need to do is more black officers in the community. However, must I remind you that this whole institution of policing
was built on fundamentally racism, white supremacy. Why are we needing implicit bias? Why are we needing more black officers? When the whole damn system of policing has placed a chokehold on the black community for centuries. Why are we continuing this implicit bias as cosmetic change? We need a complete reconstruction of this legal, political, judiciary, and policing system.
Thank you.
I'm a man of my history. You don't want to try me on life. We need some reconstructive change, all right?
So those are all the speakers. Any members, hold on. Any member, council, does any member of the council, we want to pick this up next time. We listened to the people tonight for almost 4 hours, and
Is there a possibility?
excuse me, no ma'am, I need to say something now.
Hold on, please.
Ma'am.
I checked with France.
Ma'am,
Go ahead.
ma'am, no. I want to say,
3 minutes. I got a whole. You guys have never allowed me to speak.
no
and
ma'am,
I wrote it out.
no ma'am,
I was out till 4 picking up kids out there on the side of the road when no one else would help. I'm asking for 3 minutes, and I have it written out.
go ahead.
I appreciate it. I kindly do.
3 minutes.
Steinberg, thank you for making sure I didn't go to jail. You got to try to do better at sticking at your word. I have followed up multiple times with your office, back to 2017 when Nick Wilson was in office. After you've promised multiple times to meet with me, this goes for Howard Chan, Susanna, Kelly Revis, Amy, and any other navigators per Howard Chan in regards to a 1368 incompetency that he wanted to fly over my head. Just to let you know, that'll be dismissed April the 9th. Thank you kindly, Howard Chan. As the inner city youth growing, there was shootings and killings happening every day in the Sunnydale projects. You know where that is, Steinberg. To my fiance being shot dead at 22 years old while coaching a basketball game with our 5- and 6-year-old present. Riot gear last night, but no sufficient reason Stefan was shot in his back. I am more afraid of the police and no knowledge of ACEs right along with my daughters. By the way, Rick Jennings, my girls called you a straight liar and said you hurt them because they wanted to believe in you. ACEs versus post-traumatic slave syndrome, which is really more important? I see one of them as the then and one as the now, which unfortunately, not one officer or trained official in Sacramento City or county position is trained in this. I must say I'm thrilled to see Dr. Nadine Burke Harris as the new California Surgeon General. She lives by adverse childhood experiences. This causes more mental health issues due to the police not understanding de-escalation tactics versus use of force. I present today to Sacramento in regards to Measure U, which should include everyone. It should be afforded in every area that is needed. Angelique Ashby, I've attempted to meet with you on several occasions. However, to no avail, I've heard nothing from you. Not too surprised, ma'am. My first community program was Girls and Boys Against Gangs. You wouldn't know about that coming from where you come from. My grandmother owning a business in San Francisco and being one of the only 2 blacks on the block allowed me to see the best of both worlds. I was taught it's not where you live, it's how you live. Let's help the children in Sacramento feel confident and ready for the real world. Let's give incentives to encourage them. Let's show them to open bank accounts, grant writing, hard to solve issues like mine with the school district. Although I get discouraged, we are faced with 100,000 children.
Is up.
We are faced with 100,000 children living in poverty in one of the 3 poorest cities in the 58 counties of the state of California.
You asked for 3 minutes. I gave you 3 minutes.
I'm on my last sentence, sir. Can I finish?
Yes.
I know California having the 4th largest economy in the world, no one should feel left out. I'm more than willing to help these kids. I've had to learn
Ma'am,
the 13th, 14th, and 15th
that was more than one
Amendment
sentence.
only in Sacramento.
Okay.
Every person I speak to's had trouble in school.
Ma'am.
We are not excelling. We are regressing.
Thank you.
due to the
We are
powers of
adjourned.
the whole city.